All right. Here I are. Let's see. I'm going to copy this crazy link. Announcement went out. Paste the crazy link so that people can join. Trying to figure out how to make this thing. There it is. Join. Boom. I better like my own stuff here. Pin that message. There we go. All right. I feel like I'm getting the hang of this. Everything's so difficult. Technology stuff is impossible. It's all there we go. All right. Now we're good. Bang. I'm back up. Present '07. Excellent. Good to see you, Bob. Do you want to come in? You can come in. You can jump in and say hi. There's a link. And yeah. So yeah, geez, man. I hope that monologue was good. It seemed like people like the monologue, so that's always good. Part of the key to the monologue, I think, is keeping the notes shorter. I did not succeed this time, but I had a different style of notes, so maybe that made a difference. We'll see. We'll get feedback over the next few days here, and then we'll have a couple of weeks to think about it all, which is good and bad. I'll be busy. Never do anything else than text. Why? Why not? You should get involved in the conversation even more deeply, or you should ask deeper questions in text too. I like Nathaniel there. He really digs in. So I like that when people dig in and I can figure out what it is that is not resonating correctly sometimes. And then I can kind of try to correct that. So yeah, like if you don't understand a term or you don't understand how I'm using two words, or like Sally who gets everything backwards, or puts everything at one layer. I'm like, I just did 3 layers. And she goes, wow. You know, it's good to see those things or hear about them or whatever, get feedback so you can adjust and sort of figure out where people are missing. You're not going to get everybody, right? But like right now, I'm targeting this audience. Obviously, I'm not targeting the audience that's not here. I don't know about them. But yeah, it's always tricky. I'm not running some how to take over YouTube videos and get a billion subscribers. I could. I've studied a lot of those videos, but I'm just not interested in doing that work. My Telos is different. Maybe when I have a new computer, I will buy a webcam or something. It's hard to get a computer without a webcam nowadays. They all seem to come with them. All the laptops have. My brand new laptop has a nice webcam. I'm using the external webcam, but what I need to do is buy a new shed that's not really a shed and put a studio in there and get much better equipment and then get a broadcast machine, like a dedicated broadcast machine. Wouldn't take much hardware wise, but having a machine that just did broadcasts and ran like OBS and this, because then I could do cool things with the OBS camera. I could do it here too, but I have to set up a bunch of stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I already get dressed up in some silly costume and write on the whiteboard and do a bunch of prep work and have special lighting and blah. You can see the difference on my personal channel with my name. You can see the difference between trying and not trying. We'll say, oh, Sally's back. Hey, Sally.
I returned.
Awesome. Good to see you. Any more thoughts, drawings, curiosities?
No. I'm just sure Jesse and me can fill a full hour of arguing about art stuff. I don't know if it'll be of any value to anyone.
No, it would. It would. Well, Jesse's really good at drawing things out. Um,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like Jesse's really good at drawing things out, and yeah, that's sort of the key. Um, Bob, your your sound is already very good, Captain. Yeah. Do you know how long it takes me to tune the sound? And actually, fortunately, right now it's stable, but sometimes it gets unstable.
I can't wait to get a permanent
Hey,
room.
what's this stream about? Nothing in particular. We're just but Sally has the best diction. Really? Really? I don't know. Yeah, I was talking about that, right? Like I need a bigger shed, and then I'm gonna put I'm gonna have two halves. One's gonna be an office, and the other one's gonna be a studio. I stole that idea from you, by the way, but I'm not gonna tell you
Well,
that because I'll just make your head bigger.
it's not exactly stolen when I throw them at people all the time. I'm like, here, do good ideas.
Leave me to my fantasies, Sally. You know better than this.
Tell me if they fail, so I don't have to spend the money on them. Excellent.
That's good. Actually, part of my hope was I'd get a space for the cafe, for the tea cafe, right? And then end up with uh, end up with a studio in there, right? That I could
Well,
then rent out.
if you took the party room and just changed the party room slightly, and yeah, that's totally the right space for this. I got to change. I had my studio. I wanted to have there's a little tiny room in my garage that I'm making into a studio. I wanted to make that like my proper studio, but that is going to be completely incompatible with childcare, and my studio will have to be compatible with childcare. So I think I'm going to grow like sprout trees in there and keep my toxic chemicals in there, which will be a weird combination, but I guess they'll filter each other. I don't know. But
Sounds good to me.
it's going to have a desk in the middle of my garage, but I will be able to leave things set up as opposed to dragging things to random corners that don't look like heck every time I want to live stream or paint or whatever. So
Yeah, you can do portable studio stuff pretty easily, and it's not so
I don't
bad.
want to. I
No,
don't
no,
want
I know that, but it's not the worst thing ever, is all I'm saying. Uh-oh. 2076, have you heard of the Panagachi? It's a cute little automated Wi-Fi hacking device. Yes, actually, I have heard of them. They're quite cute. I agree. Uh-oh. BubbleViz wants to know what you're sipping.
coffee.
Problem with Panagachi is it's a generic walk around and grab all the Wi-Fi passwords device. And, it's not good for targeted attacks, which is more feasible. Just getting a bunch of Wi-Fi passwords to give to somebody else's cloud rainbow table is not exactly my idea of fun. But I have seen the thing. It does look neat. Gamifying hacking. On the one hand, good. On the other hand, I'm working with a cybersecurity company, so no. I'm a hard no on these cyber tools. I have to use that software though to do a test suite. So eventually, I'm going to build. Actually, I'm not going to build. I'm going to make one of the students build a test suite for all that stuff to harden Wi-Fi and harden websites and all that crazy stuff. It's going to be fun, honest. It will be fun. It won't be as fun as Dollywood's going to be next weekend, but it'll be almost that fun.
Don't understand.
No, you would love Dollywood, actually, Sally. You would. No, you actually would. It's amazing.
I have zero belief in that, but I've been wrong before. It's happened.
It's not Disney World. It's Dollywood. Nice rings. Mark should have some pirate rings also. Who has rings? You have rings? Where are these rings?
I don't know. This is the problem with being online. People notice you, and then it's weird.
It's weird to be noticed. Are you used to not being noticed by your family? I know that feeling well.
Just get one of those introvert artist cameras that show my notepad.
Yes.
Way more comfortable.
Jesse says he's just eating. I don't know. Is that a thing? We're just chatting. You're just eating. Although we don't call it just chatting. We call it the after party. Party, party, party.
I got so focused on trying to look at all the pieces of Telos today. Now I can't think of anything else.
You can't think outside the Telos.
Can't think
Telos has me. I'm a zombie. Save me, save me. You are trapped in the aim of aims, which is much like the Route of Ages in Andromeda. Man, that last season of Andromeda is it's killing me. I'm like dying. I'm like, I can't not watch the whole thing now and I've seen it before, right? but I'm just like, this is such horrible writing.
So
The
bad.
whole thing is just full of holes and terribleness. What are you doing? Why are you continuing this show?
I don't understand why they have found, like, why would it have been so terrible if it would have actually been his place? And why did they have to be interdimensional time travelers? Why is it always interdimensional time travelers, Mark?
It
That's
is
just
because people don't like conflict. And the only way to resolve conflict is to have interdimensional time travel at the end of the day. Like, that is the only way. That's why sci-fi goes there quite often and does a terrible job. There's only a handful of good time travel uh, sci-fi things, whether they're books or TV or like classic Star Trek does a couple that are very good.
they they should have killed the very last of the Magog and then used their world ship, their livers to build a new Terran Vedra. That would have been the Greek answer to.
Yes. Yes. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Nathaniel has like a serious question. Dude, this is an after party, really? No, I'm kidding. Heard you mention something about trauma-informed worldviews in relation to modern philosophers. Yes, all of them since past Aristotle. Any reading recommendations on this? No, just a video. Self-delusion and being driven by the past are of interest to me. Well, look, we're all determined by the past. We're not driven by the past. We're driven by our passions in the moment. And the question is, do you take responsibility and control over that? Knowing you're not going to have full control, or do you abandon the Telos? Michael Sugrue, whose video is linked. I mean, I can link it here. I just have to find it. He has this wonderful video that we missed. So we found Sugrue because we were doing Vervaeke's Cultivating Wisdom course and wanting to learn more Stoicism. And somebody said, "Oh no, this guy's really good." And we watched them. They were recorded in the 90s, I think. I think it's Princeton. I forget which Ivy League school, but basically they said, "Oh, check this guy out. He's really good." So we checked it out, and he got great stuff, like really great stuff. We don't watch all of it because, like, who the hell cares about modern philosophers? They all suck, as everybody knows. So Manuel, in particular, has been watching more of his stuff, and he does these excellent, like 45-minute summaries on philosophers. And it's either him or Dr. Darren Stoloff, who's also good. Segru is just one of the best lecturers ever, 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 ever. He's really good, and he's really good at summarizing stuff. And so his whole channel is really, really good. But Jean-Francois Lyotard, that is in particular one of these that sort of points this out. But another one, Kierkegaard's Christian Existentialism. Let me find the Hume one, because that one was excellent. I know I started Hume and I didn't finish it, so it might be hard to find. But yeah, it turns out that when you start listening to summaries of these guys, you realize, wait a minute, they're just working out their own trauma. That's literally, all they're doing is working out their own trauma. And it's rather disappointing because, you don't want them to be doing that. And yet you're kind of stuck with them, in that mode.
That's a fun one. Have you done a thing on projection?
No, not yet. Projection's hard. You have to get the Telos down first, right? I mean, yeah, some of this stuff is like you need these two concepts at the same time. You can't do that because it takes one full monologue to do.
Like trying to understand projection, like I even see it, like I see it like in myself. Like I'll get certain about something for whatever reasons of things that made me make me suspicious of a thing, and then I'll be convinced of that going into some kind of interaction, and then I'll start seeing that left and right, and then if I can slow down and be patient, I can realize, oh, that has nothing to do with it. That's actually the weird paradigm of talk on the internet to another person and then go back and watch it. That is something you can do because you can really see your flaws if you're willing to go look at honest conversations you had that are recorded. Because seeing, I was like, oh, right there, I got obsessed about that thing. Oh yeah, I've been obsessed about that thing before. Oh yeah, that's just me projecting intent onto another person.
Right. Well, you're
Well,
projecting the telos, right? So, yeah. All right, hold on.
or
I gotta catch up on this. Time Bandits. Time Bandits is fun, but it's actually terrible time travel. Bubble Viz. Mark, what's the best TV series ever? The Prisoner. Hands down. Best TV series ever is The Prisoner. And in fact, look, you can argue Breaking Bad is better, and like, fair enough, it might be. But The Prisoner was better, was the best TV series since up until Breaking Bad, for sure. For sure. Absolutely. The founding of the Ottoman Empire. That sounds interesting. Nathaniel, thanks so much for all the resources. Sure, man. Anytime. We're here to do resources. I just bookmarked Sugru. Okay, good. Yeah. No, he's got great stuff. This one is Staloff, who's also good. I mean, no one's as good as Sugru, but oh man, these people, they eat and then they come on my stream. All right, welcome back, Jesse. Yeah, The Prisoner is fantastic. It is subversive, and the guy who did it did Danger Man or Secret Agent Man, depending on if you're in the UK or the US first.
man, I don't know that. I've never watched that show. I just know that tune.
I have them all on DVD somewhere. I think I've watched season 1. I'd have to check. I didn't get around to watching the rest. Probably because of the move, I think, is what interrupted it all. And yeah, with the move, I mean, more than half of my media is still in the shed. I really have to. I was thinking about this maybe tomorrow afternoon. The problem with this is that I have this stretch of busyness, right? Like Friday's just screwed because I've got to mop up the, whatever the monologue is, and then I got to edit the monologue notes, right? And in the middle, I have to do normal stuff. And like I missed a business meeting today. And then usually I listen to the Vanderclay live stream, which just screws me up, right? I have other stuff I have to do, right? And then we actually do the damn stream. So that's like, I go straight from editing or whatever into dinner. And then in this case, I did dinner and then editing, right? So I edited just before I came on, right? And so that gets tricky. And then I jump into this, and then I wake up in the morning and I read Plato's Republic, and then I do the Republic book club until noon. And yeah, so it's a little bit. All right, how we get even.
Sometimes Saturday afternoon, the monologue is gone.
Oh, look at this. Sally, I won't address you anymore so you can feel comfortable.
Thank you. That's what I need in my life. More emotional comfort.
There we go. We have a troll that thinks America destroyed the Middle East. Well, America did some damage to the Middle East for sure, but that was a long time ago. That was after World War I. So I don't know what to tell you. You probably don't know any history though, so it's cool. The Middle East wasn't in great shape before we showed up, by the way. Just saying. I don't know where Jesse went. He comes on and then he leaves again. What is with this guy? And Ethan looks cool. How come there's still sunlight out there? That seems unfair.
Yeah, a lot of good things on Telos. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Was the monologue good? Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. I think it's on the AIM thing. So I was talking to my wife last night about this. We talked about the planned pregnancies, right? Like it's riddled in all of the literature that's access to common people or whatever, like readily access literature on pregnancy. It's going to say, have a pregnancy plan. And so you start idealizing all of these particular things, these particular things to happen. And when they don't happen, it's almost like you're putting your identity in them. And when those things don't happen, your identity is compromised or crushed.
Oh, special guest. Look at this. Yeah, your identity. If you wrap your identity up in the material and the material fails you, it's a problem. What's up, Grim?
How you
You're
doing?
muted. Oh, he's frozen now.
Half the screen frozen. It's too bad.
Okay, theoretically, it should not echo any more than necessary, but I don't got earbuds or anything.
That's fine.
So, welcome.
Good to see you, sir. How's it going?
Great. What's going on? I saw you had put the word party, and I thought it might be a boarding party, so I was like, "Arr!" Oh, come on.
It is a boarding party.
Well,
Maybe a
All
board party.
aboard.
Now we can confirm the name.
so how's the echo test on this
Be somewhere-
unauthorized
Your
device?
Telos has to
It's
be
fine.
Good.
something that's in potential. It can't.
Oh, Ethan's still continuing.
He's lagged and he's soft.
At least it's not my fault. Hey.
Yeah.
So
we can,
who among those on the screen besides myself will be at Estuary Chino and/or Anna Chino 23?
I don't think any
None of
any
you.
us are going.
None
Sorry,
of you are come. No representatives from your whole Rhode Island of the corner. By
Rhode
gum,
Island.
by gum, Lefebvre.
Where's this
If
Rhode
someone
Island?
wants to sponsor me to come, I'll come.
Oh,
Couple grand from Australia, I'll show up. And then maybe if I show up, Mark will show up. So, you know.
well, I
No,
don't
no.
see how with like the mimetic engineers you have at play here, you can't finance it yourselves. I don't know what's wrong with your agency, but I love it. I miss you guys. Thanks for coming by my streams, Mark. I appreciate it. This is me expressing some gratitude. I'm doing some road tests because, like, the drive to Anachino right now. Let me know how those are and stay tuned. You want me to be wrong about anything real quick before I bounce, Mark?
No. You can do whatever you want, man. We're all after party here.
All right. God bless. Love you guys.
Have
All right, see ya. Yeah, I'm sure we could fund Chino events. There are other reasons why I'm not going to Chino. One of them is that I do have a family thing, and that is going to come first because it's for my cousins. My cousins are all awesome, so they get my full attention as opposed to crazy events. Although I really like Thunder Bay. I hope they do another one. That would be great. Poor Ethan. Ethan got betrayed by his stupid phone. And what see, this is what we need. We need to get Ethan a new phone.
That's
And
what
then
we should
one
I
that
would
works.
fund.
Some new t-shirts too.
Ooh, ouch. Shots fired. Man, the
He
after
knows
party is just nasty.
Gotta stir the pot somehow.
He knows it? That's just wow. Wow.
They could say the same about
Well,
me.
Mark
You know, I
calls
try-
him a dirty hippie every other stream. So
I know. That's true. That's true. I used to troll
there's a
people. Right?
reason why he's saying that.
I bought a bunch of merch from Sargon of Akkad back in the day when he was doing the custom T-shirt merch stuff, and of course it's me, so I buy 3 because it turns out if you buy 3 and you rotate them correctly, they don't wear out quite so fast. And like I've got this all down; it's a science, right? So I've got this all down. So I'd be like wearing one and then a different one the next day. And then people would be like, "You wore that T-shirt yesterday." I'm like, "No, I have 3." Haha. It's just like, I win. Yeah, I do stuff like that sometimes. I still troll. I can't help it. It's too much fun. It's way too much fun. Poor Ethan, though. I wish. Yeah, we gotta find a way to get him some stable internet connection while he drives, because it's all he ever does is drive, and then the worst part is he'll say something banal like, "Hey guys, how y'all doing? I had a great day," and blah 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 blah. And then it'll be like, so I had this deep philosophical question. What I wanted to ask about was, I was reading Kierkegaard, and we're like, "No, you gotta be kidding me! How come it always cuts out when he's saying something really deep and important? And like every single freaking time, too. It's like unbelievable. It's like Discord knows. And Discord's like, I'm going to screw up the connection.
That's his FBI agent. Every time it might have impact on the experience.
He's got a handler or something. And yeah. I remember when I went up to the tea company, right? So I'm up in the mountains, basically, or right at the foothills. And as I got into the foothills, the service got spotty, which, okay, yeah, fair enough. You're in the freaking foothills of the freaking mountains, dude. Cell phones aren't going to work in the mountains very well. And Ethan's like, oh, you're cutting in and out, Mark, but I guess I got to put up with it because you put up with me from me all the time. And I'm like, yes, you do. This is my small vengeance. Oh, goodness. Wrong. I wanted the Sargon of Akkad body pillow. Dude, no. That was a troll. No. The whole point was not to buy it. Did you not listen to the man? He said, don't buy this.
I have to
made you a sim.
I have to give Grim credit here. So I have some different things on Redbubble, and one of them is a sticker of my Herb statue head. And I like to make a high product and a low product, but I wasn't going to make prints. And so I'm like, I'm going to throw it on the pillow because it'll be stupid. And Grim immediately. The most expensive item on my Redbubble, which was like 12. I paid $12 to have a Herb pillow. And I'm just like, really? You identified that strongly with my inner straight white male? Fascinating.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Of course he did.
Herb stands
what are you talking
for
about?
human equivalency robot. And it's a physical representation of my inner straight white male that I do videos with about my dreams.
Okay.
You haven't seen her Herb videos yet? That's some of her best work.
Okay.
Wasn't a fan.
The comment.
That in the intro
the framing.
That in the intro video that she did in the Badlands that I was there for watching and listening to live while she actually recorded it.
Did you think I just did serious type videos and didn't have like a totally wishy-washy out there artist side? I draw stick people.
Ethan's upset that I mentioned Kierkegaard and his name in the same sentence. And like, fair enough, Ethan, I apologize. That was totally my bad. Any penance I have to do is appropriate. You just let me know and I will make appropriate amends. People have been talking about, oh, Kierkegaard's a miserable, lonely, upset, existential piece of garbage, just the way I feel. And so I really like him. It's like, none of that is good. Don't identify with, I'm depressed. I identify with other depressed people. Don't do that. Like, just no.
What do you think about the category of marginalia, Jesse?
What?
The category of marginalia in art.
I don't
Like
know
this.
this.
Oh,
Look.
too bad.
That is
Marginalia. I thought you were talking about something about butter or something.
No.
Marginalia. Butter.
No. Like in historical like prints and paintings and like they would margin comics.
You mean ornamentation? That's what you mean.
No, I don't mean.
No. Marginalia is a specific artistic term.
Yeah, but I'm pointing to the higher frame.
No, I want the lower frame. I was wondering.
Yeah, we want the base frame, man.
The paste. Literally speak. Is an echo. No? Tanya. Maybe it's me.
I will share.
What do you think about irreverent cartooning for fun?
It's not cartooning. It's marginalia. Stop.
I use the word marginalia, but
I know. But don't use the word cartoon. It's not a cartoon.
Cartoon.
It's not a freaking cartoon. I'm gonna strangle you.
Cartoon.
2 days to get there. You'd be freaking meat right now.
And yet, I'm fine.
Here, I'm gonna promote your, your video. There, I promotified it. It's super promoted.
What is it? What's a cartoon mean? What's the meaning of cartoon?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. Like, it's like I very much like doing little cartoony type things.
What's cartoon mean?
Like expressional images, like like marginalia stuff, or like like the Far Side cartoons, like that kind of stuff, like the other form arts, like just having a good time with it because we can. Total heresy, funsies. What do you think?
I think marginalia are supposed to be ultra symbolic representations, right? Like that's their purpose. Whereas we'll say modern cartoons are not, right? They're just supposed to be poor representations that are supposed to kind of maybe be symbolic.
Are just little like feuds between calligraphy artists, and sometimes they're just like snails in rabbit wars.
But they're always super highly symbolic.
Sometimes they just look like doodling around for funsies.
No, I don't think they are ever. I don't
so.
think so.
Sure.
No, I don't. I
Strictly.
challenge you to find some that do that, and I'll go look at them and tell you whether or not they have super symbolic things going on.
Well, the trouble is I wouldn't be for sure anyway, because I don't read most languages that have the marginalia. So how would I know if they related to the text?
Isn't cartoon like colored in line art? Yes, but marginalia is sometimes also that. And the problem is that marginalia is not cartoons, because cartoons are desacralizing and marginalia is sacralizing. That's the difference.
I don't know if it always is, Mark.
I believe and understand that.
Well, cartoons are to do with paper. Cartons. They're to do with branding, ultimately.
Right. And they're supposed to be oversimplified, right? They're supposed to be flattening of the world. Whereas my argument is that marginalia actually expands the world by being in contrast.
Wrong. What's ornamentation?
Black and white. Yes.
That marginalia are 2D gargoyles. Yeah, fair enough.
Bubble Viz. I like sacralizing stuff. Yes. Well, we do here. Re-enchantment.
Yeah. I don't know about the framing of marginalia. I think ornamentation is far more interesting to elaborate from.
But marginalia is separate, and that's why I was just curious.
How is it separate?
Because Well, I do like the framing it as the grotesque, which is like saying it's like heightening the contrast by making something ugly on the thing. Because it's not part of the embellishments. It's like a debellishment in the embellishment. And yeah, maybe that's providing contrast. I'll have to think about that for a little bit.
Yeah. It is far better with art to assume intent. You should not assume intent everywhere else, but within art, you should assume intent. If someone's doing something, they've worked on something, there is an intent behind it. Everywhere else in life, maybe you don't assume intent. Probably a good rule.
Telos?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. This is a good thing to talk about in relationship to that. Like, it wasn't entirely left field. That's interesting. Because, see, I have this theory that, like, you can make things that are, like, I would objectively call them ugly, but then nonetheless, they're not a negative to portray, because there is a positivity to displaying a negative emotion accurately, which is sometimes ugly. And I have like a number of different little monsters that I do. I have a fear monster that I've portrayed a number of certain ways. I have one for bewilderment. I think I have the bemoaner as a short. And they're kind of like deranged, wild case looking little things. But I've had a number of experiences where I put those up and then watch people respond to them. And they're like, oh, I felt that. And it's like it's a relief, because I think there's a place for portraying things that are a little bit beneath what you can articulate with language.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and no, absolutely. Well, that's where all the richness is.
I think that's what a lot of the marginalia is doing. And some of it's just silly goofiness. Like, I think there's something to that too, because there is a physical humor that you can have even with like pre-verbal kids that like isn't quite, it's not refined. It's just there's a goofiness that you can have, and that's an expression.
Oh, yeah. Well, no,
Okay.
right, but Sally, that's because propositions, and this is where the postmoderns kind of have a point, but it's a universal, so it's not a real point. Propositions narrow you and keep you constrained because it's the narrow end of the pyramid, and as we get into language, we actually screw up our imagination to some extent. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It is what the postmoderns are complaining about, but I don't think it's a bad thing.
Is
And
there
we talked about that in the Jean-Francois Lyotard video. It's a really good video, actually. It just validated and justified two of my videos, my postmodern video and my modernism video, because he actually mentions that in the video as a throwaway, like one-off line. He just basically, poo-poos the idea of modernism entirely as a useless frame. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly the point of my modernism video. So.
Is there an example of modern marginalia?
Oh, I think
I don't think so.
No,
I
maybe
think we made it too proceduralized.
do it. There are things that are silly like that, but no, because they were in
Because you
direct.
can point to something like Robot Chicken and say Robot Chicken was marginalia of YouTube.
Oh, there
you
is.
See that.
There is. It's so the little intros and outros. Like think about the what is the little lamp animation that's on the beginning of the Pixar movies?
Oh yeah. Yes.
There's that kind of stuff.
Like Robot Chicken doesn't qualify because Robot Chicken is just random, unconnected things.
So when the Minions do their shorts as intros and outros to other movies, that is equivalent to modern.
Right, because it's around the border of something else. And that's what puts it in the margin. It can't be the margin by itself. It can't be like, well, Robot Chicken is just margin after margin after margin.
With the marginality MTV. MTV has the Telos. There was a reason why MTV was created. Robot Chicken comes out of the MTV phenomena.
Might be, actually. I think Robot Chicken might be marginalia to MTV because if you put it with rock videos, like really, really ornate rock videos, it is for sure.
You consider most of the YouTube early content was marginalia, actually.
The
cute cat videos, little thumb war videos.
Yeah. Well, The Simpsons had marginalia in the beginning. They had those little cutaways, right? There was a bunch of stuff with cutaways in the 90s and early 2000s. But all that's kind of gone. So what is this? Both of these. Exaggeration can be part of art. Well, yeah, like exaggerating emotions. Sure. I agree. Difficult word.
Maybe this is controversial to say,
don't
but
be
I think
Dutch next time, Bubble. Like, it's your own fault for being Dutch.
Instagram influencers have become marginalia because now that society's all online, it looks like Jabba the Hutt going out.
Yeah, it looks like Jabba the Hutt in a top hat trying to eat a dragonfly.
It's an after party. Reasons.
I'm a strong no on anything trying to eat dragonflies, just so that you know.
But I don't know.
Dragonflies eat mosquitoes, and that is why I can be out in my yard at all ever. Because I have a zillion dragonflies, and they keep the mosquito population in the pond in check, so that I normally don't get attacked and eaten by a billion mosquitoes every time I go outside. Because I should, by rights, get eaten by a zillion mosquitoes because I have a pond 12 feet from my house. And yet, I do not. Victory for dragonflies. Dragonflies are also amazing. I saw a video on them not too long ago. And like the number of crazy wackadoodle things that they can do, that they do uniquely to any other animal on the planet is like off the charts. And they are just like the coolest freaking, and they're basically dinosaurs. So they're small flying dinosaurs. And they do all these cool things that no other creature can do, and they eat mosquitoes. So they're the greatest things ever. Can confirm.
So what ended marginalia? Is it the context or is it the pretext?
I don't think it was
proceduralization of art.
Well, I don't know that a marginalia exists except through hindsight view, because I don't know if they would have called it that.
Right. Also true. But on the other end, they probably had a telos to putting the marginalia there at the same time.
Peugeot talks about this.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a telos to it. It's just they didn't call it marginalia, but they knew what they were doing. Like it's gargoyles, right? Gargoyles are marginalia. And
They called
you
it
know, you gotta-
ornamentation. They just called it
No,
ornamentation.
gargoyles are not mere ornamentation because they serve a
There's
purpose.
a difference. There's a difference between the marginalia and
Yeah, but
the
I don't think you guys are understanding ornamentation the way I'm understanding ornamentation.
Of course
You have
not, because you're
gargoyles.
Australian.
Was
so no
the
one can make
traditional
any
idea of the
sense of it.
gargoyles? Can confirm.
No, look,
Takes a few
I,
tricks.
I can acquiesce to gargoyles are a subset of ornamentation to some degree, but to bring them down to ornamentation, I think is to err.
No, I'm bringing them up to ornamentation because we don't have ornamentation anymore. Everything's just a concrete wall. There's like proper framing in architecture, in life. We don't have the sense of ornamentation of
Ooh.
properly framing something as prestigious.
What do
It's
you
all
think?
flat world. It's all
My-
grayscale.
My implication that the churches being unwilling to assert themselves physically is a direct correlation with an unwillingness to assert themselves spiritually. I brought that up sort of in the salient signal video.
Yep. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I told Sally this. You couldn't have heard it. I don't think, Jesse. So I saw a video this morning, actually, earlier this morning, which would have been your yesterday because you're upside down and backwards. And in the video was Bill Hammer, the engineer guy. And I really love his stuff. He hasn't put out a video in a long time. But what happened in the video was he basically made a case for engineering to be like the end all be all at the top of the pyramid, not science. So he's saying the video he put out, and it's first of like a series based on his book. He's basically saying you don't need science to build cathedral, science or mathematics to build a cathedral. And he shows you in the video how you do the calculation. It's not a calculation, and specifically says you don't need analytics. Like you don't need to analyze to build the cathedral, which is all true, by the way. Like I already knew all this stuff. I knew this stuff years and years and years, probably 20 years ago, right? And so, because when you engage with TBS and stuff in Boston, you find these things out. Like how did they build the cathedrals? Well, we actually know a lot about how they built. Not everything. We know a lot about how they built cathedrals. And it turns out, yeah, they didn't have any of the advanced mathematics that we would use because they didn't need it. And it's like, whoa, wait, you don't need any of the math to build a cathedral? Nope, you need none. Zero math. You need some geometric, proportions, but they're proportions. Proportions are easy. Like you don't need calculus or trigonometry or algebra. You don't need any of that. And he shows you in the video how he does it. And then my proposal to Vanderklay was, so the church is receding, right? And then science is trying to take the top thing and say, no, we can explain the world. This religion can't explain the world, but we can. And then you've got this guy who's an engineer saying, no, science is not the same as engineering. Have we heard that before from anybody like me constantly? But engineering can do things that science that beyond science. And it's like, oh, well, that's true. That's also my point. And it can do things without science, but it can take the science and enhance it, right? So they're trying to be at the top. And then my proposal is wisdom's trying to be at the top. But all this is because the church isn't going, no, we're at the top. Know your role. Like they're not doing that. And so Vanderklay actually responded to me fairly quickly. It's a short video, by the way, an engineer guy, Bill Hammock. The engineer guy channel is great, by the way. It's just good little short videos. So he responded to me right away and said, well, this is kind of interesting. I'll have to think about this. I kind of see your point. It's really important. And I'm like, yes, finally, the recession of the church is finally like he's getting it. It's only taken 3 years. So it's good. But that's also the same as the recession of art. That's why I mention it. Philonic forms. They're all cats. What is wrong with you? Why are you the craziest person ever? Why? Why?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Brilliant.
I don't
Brilliant.
understand these cats. This is not good for the world.
Some people just can't comprehend philosophy, Mark. It's okay.
I like the stick figure philosophy. idea.
Philosophy. Philosophy.
Elinosophy. Yeah. I wish I had a few $1 million and we could just do stick figure philosophy with a team. That would be freaking awesome.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
I'm working on it. We'll get the tea company up and running. Everything will be fine.
I will set my house in order for another 2 to 3 years, and we'll see what happens.
The AI conundrum would be the ideal thing for the church to assert themselves. Yeah, well, there are so many ideal things for the church to assert themselves at this point. It's like,
And then we can crusade against the AI and commit the AI genocide.
well, then that's right. That's the whole thing, though.
Balerian jihad.
There's the But there's the problem. The problem is that AI is non-telodic, and we're treating it as though it's telodic. And then it's like, well, it doesn't have a name. And like, no, it has a name. It's like, no, it doesn't. And if you think it does, the people that gave it a name are going to control you, right? Whereas I go, I don't care what AI says because I know AI is evil.
We can fix the AI problem. Just mandatory watching of The Wizard of Oz in school. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Just everybody has to watch Wizard of Oz in school.
How does that fix the AI problem?
It's the man behind the curtain problem. It's okay. They'll still understand.
Yep. Well, I didn't think at any point you were wrong. I'm just like, what am I not seeing?
The man behind
That's what I wasn't seeing.
I would say Frankenstein, but that's just me.
No.
Kind of Frankenstein.
No, that's a story of agency, but it's not. It's not a story of changed agent or moved agency. It's a story of created agency.
The reason Frankenstein isn't the
but you can point to the opposite
for AI is because it's like several heads and several fragments of dead wills put together in a clump.
Right.
And it's not a looking at the behind the curtain, because Frankenstein wasn't like, if you wanted to make it a perfect symbolic reference to AI, Frankenstein wasn't donor implants of other people's brains. Whereas is donor implants of other people's brains.
Yeah, I would say rather explicitly. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Where is
it's closer than a divine god. Frankenstein is closer than a divine god, because that's what people are like, oh, it'll be a pure rational being at last to tell us how to live our lives.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the important thing to realize about AI in terms of, we'll say what it like actually is this, right? That's all it is. It's just a mirror with cracks in it. And the mirror is consistent of the dead brains of lots of other people. And that's it. It's that simple. So I really like, obviously, Sally Joe did this because it's awesome. So if it's awesome, Sally Joe did it. That's pretty much the rule. And yeah, I mean, it's just, that's all AI is. And nobody likes that message, but also that's the message.
So I just had this thought of like, it kind of doesn't matter what you put at the top of this kind of pyramid. They're gonna roll heads off of it. Because it's a pyramid rolling heads off of.
Yes.
That's just how it's going to go. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, Ace Ventura starts with him, throwing a slinky off a Tibetan temple. If you want to obscure reference.
I never saw that.
Ace Ventura 2. He's the movie starts with him. He's joined a Tibetan monastery, and then he decides to leave, and then before he leaves, he's got one last thing that he needs to do, and he pushes a slinky off and sees how long it can go. That's how the movie starts. Very interesting framing for slapstick 90s.
Yeah, the framing, it's weird that people miss the framing of these things. And I'm like, did you right? And then they screw up the message, and it's like, wow, they usually get it backwards. I like this bubble viz. You're talking about current state of AI, but the thing is AI in 10 years. Let me explain to you how this works. Even Vervaeke said this, although Vervaeke is so confused, he doesn't understand. Right? 10 years ago, they said we were going to have AGI in 10 years. Period. They did. They said we were going to have self-driving cars. And the guy who was the big evangelist for that just recently did a talk like 2 or 3 months ago at most, where he admitted 10 years ago, we thought we'd have fully self-driving cars. And 10 years later, a car can't take a left-hand turn today, right now. And AI cannot take a right, can't take a left. If you don't understand why that is, and like fair enough, it's not like we think of left and right as symmetrical, but when you're driving, they're not for very good reasons, technical reasons. You can figure that out. You can take a right on red. You can't take a right on left, a left on red. Why? There you go. And the thing is, they can't take left-hand turns. 10 years. And so he admitted there's a failure there. And that's the problem. That's really the problem. They cannot do it. And they cannot fix that problem. And it's not current AI. It's all possible AIs. They also can't fix the problem of adding a sticker to a sign and the sign becoming invisible, but only to an AI and not to a person. They haven't figured any of that out. So I get it. And also, all the AI is domain stuck still. They haven't fixed the silo problem. They're not going. Large language models look like they fixed the silo problem for very obvious reasons, because they're attacking it at the language level. But they don't actually fix the silo problem. And it takes 10 seconds to see this. Vervaeke put it in his own AI video. He just missed the fact that he restated the silo problem after saying it didn't exist. Maybe we'll figure out what consciousness is, but probably not. No, we're not going to. Yeah, you can't define intelligence. You're not going to get generalized intelligence. You don't have something to measure again. Like, this whole project is foolish.
It's also relevancy, right? They say these big Facebook's going to consume us, and then look at Facebook now.
Nothing can take a left-hand turn at a light. That's not true. Cannot take a left-hand turn at a light in an AI. It can't be done.
And also, the self-driving cars is very conditional to what the US and a few other places.
Right. Well, and look, all these self-driving cars are killing people left, right, and center, and all of them are subject to the stop sign problem, which is a well-known white paper that you can just look up and realize, oh wait, you can put a theoretically almost infinite number of stickers on a stop sign that a human will never even notice, and the stop sign vanishes to the car, and they have no idea why that is technically. They know that it happens. They know roughly why it happens. They don't actually understand how it's
determined. Stop sign just means stop, and just hard code that.
No, you can't. That's the problem.
Is a stop sign
a framing problem?
Is it a red hexagon?
It's so bizarre.
On it?
And how big is it in relation to the thing?
Mm-hmm.
Because what you don't realize is that the size of an object in your vision is not a single variable function. It's a multivariable function.
Yeah.
And once you go multivariate, you're completely screwed. Bubble, dude, the guy gave the talk this year. Okay, he gave the talk, not me. He gave the talk, not me. He said the cars can't do it. We know why they can't do it. And by the way, even if they did it 2 years ago, it took 8 years when you could take a right-hand turn 10 years ago. Like, I don't know what to tell you. There's a deep asymmetry here.
Barbra Streisand in the 1970s, in one of her albums, put out propaganda about the climate change and said we need to fix climate change in the next 10 years, otherwise we're all screwed. Guys.
Right.
What year is it?
Yeah, this is an old story.
2020.
The stop sign is this relatively famous recent white paper. I think it's only in the last 2 years, maybe 3, I forget. Where they're basically saying you can put a sticker on a stop sign that is invisible to people from 6 feet away, and you're almost always 6 feet away from a stop sign when you're in a car. You won't even see it. Like, you won't even see it, and you'll stop because you can still tell the stop sign. But once you put that sticker on there, there is no AI driver that will see the stop sign. That addition of the sticker inside of the stop sign boundaries makes the stop sign invisible to the car, and it will run the stop sign every single time, reliably, 100% of the time. And they did the math and figured out, oh, no, there's you can't do exceptions because there's too many exceptions. Like the exceptions are larger than the set of stop signs by several orders of magnitude. So basically, it doesn't work. And that's the problem. And yeah, look, you can talk about Tesla all day long. Guess who has the most deaths in car accidents for self-driving cars, and who has the least number of self-driving cars on the road? Tesla. In other words, they're 2 orders of magnitude more deadly than any other self-driving car systems. No thanks. I'm out.
So that we can't get to the 6th day with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Well, so I've mentioned this before, but this is funny, right? So that these crazy technologists, they'll do something like, well, fusion's right coming up. We're going to get fusion solved, right? And then there's a great documentary called ITER, and it's about the European project, or fusion in general. 1945. In 5 years, we'll have fusion solved. 1945. They've been playing this game since the mid-1940s, telling everybody they're going to solve fusion since the mid-1940s, and we still haven't cracked it. We're nowhere near cracking. I know they just had a breakthrough. Read the paper really carefully. Look at the energy input and the energy output. They have what's called a theoretical gain, but it's not actualized, which means they've proven the theory that they could actualize a gain if they changed a bunch of variables, but they haven't actually done that yet. They've just proven that it's theoretically possible. That's all they did. That's it. And I'm not, and look, I've actually, if you ask me, self-driving cars or fusion, I'm like, no, fusion, because the guys who are doing what they're doing is they're firing. Do they fire the fuel at the laser, or do they fire the laser at the fuel? But what they do is they're like, no, we're going to manufacture pellets. We're not going to use a continuous fusion system. That's dumb. And they're correct. That is dumb. What we're going to do is we're going to manufacture pellets of fuel as bullets. And we're going to shoot I think this is how they do it. They shoot the bullets, or maybe they're shooting the pellets. I forget which way it goes, but they're doing it that way. And that actually might work.
This is the robot spider I will drive in the war against the AI. Just letting you know.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sally. Now we know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Nice hat.
Upgraded model.
Yeah, I like the hat.
I have a dome.
This is the latest and greatest. So these aren't the ones that automatically get you. These are the ones you can drive in. I know there's 2 different types.
None of them are automatic. They're just a net remote controlled, like the drone.
No. I thought the ones that got the litter and dropped it off at you were fully autonomous.
I don't trust on automation. I'll hire Gen Z to drive them.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's good. You're just used to the military model.
Yeah.
They don't use AI. They use real intelligence.
If we don't want to go there, but
the original intent of
Mark, do you know much about how they?
I was only going to continue my joke.
It's my internet.
Talk about serious things, so I'll let it go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if my internet dropped out.
I think
it did a little.
No, I was going to ask Mark if
Sally was talking too, so it's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to update it. I do find it weird that the Oppenheimer movie's coming out now. They're talking about the nuclear bomb all of a sudden. Like, it's just...
That's not weird.
No, they're scared to death. That makes total sense. Yeah, we should have some scary nuclear bomb movies come out.
They've been trying to make World War III happen for like 2 years now. Like, they've been openly saying, it's World War III any day now, guys. And, I mean, this is what I keep saying. Look, if we all pull together, we can make World War III happen. But I wish we wouldn't. Like, I wish we'd just stop talking about it. Because if you put attention, it's like the suicide hotline signs, right? You want to increase suicide? Put up suicide hotline signs in the city. Suicides go up reliably. It's 100%. Why we're still doing this, I don't know, but we are still to this day doing this, even though we know it makes everything worse. We know that. It's known. It's in the data. It's 100% correlation. So if you point at bad things,
very interesting too. That because obviously that movie's going to do a far bit of moralizing. Like they've got Matt Damon in there, right? So that's anytime you get Matt Damon, you're going to get a moralizing message. You could look at his.
I hadn't heard about it, so it's the first time hearing about it.
Oppenheimer, yeah, it's a movie with Christopher Nolan putting out.
Oh, Christopher Nolan movie? Why? Why is he allowed to make movies? I don't get it. He's a crazy and I like.
I just wonder with it because we're talking about fusion. And we're talking about fusion and how fusion. So I was wondering if they do they just invent this nuclear bomb technology overnight, like they said they did, or was it something they already were working on, and then the war happened to be a good excuse to buy something? I gotta go in a second anyway.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
What do you mean? The fusion tech? Which fusion tech?
Yeah. Well, in nuclear fusion, right? And which first came from the nuclear bomb?
I didn't. It's the opposite tech.
No,
it's literally the opposite.
Okay.
The bomb is fission. It's breaking apart.
Right.
Right, and ITER is adding things together to form bigger things, basically, instead of breaking it apart for smaller things. It's the opposite idea. And the problem is energy in versus energy out. And if you ignore all the energy you spend, but the reason why I think that the pellets will work, or whatever they're called, I think they're called pellets, whatever, is because it has an order.
I'm just saying bird feed every time you say that. It's little tiny.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. But that's the thing. That's what they're doing. They're taking these little, I think they're cubes, and they're putting it in the cube. The reason why I think it'll work is because it's structured and it's intermittent. And the problem that they actually have with like tokamak reactors and stuff is all about the movement of the plasma through the system. So like you have to set it off and seal it immediately, right? And then it moves in this wacky, tokamak formula, which is very clever. The tokamak stuff is really cool looking mathematically. The problem is they can't make it stable. They can't keep it stable. They can't, because they're trying to build a continuous system, and continuous systems are very hard. Continuous math is completely different type of math, and it doesn't work for most things because you can't properly map mathematics to a continuous process because math is discrete by design. And so while there is continuous math and it's very close, it doesn't get close enough, right? And that's why the instabilities show up in the system.
Well, rocket only lasts so long, right? It's not a continuous system.
Exactly. Well, right. It's how continuous for how long, right? Because linear things exist within a frame, but once you break out of that frame, the linear things go completely critical in one direction or the other. Like you can break out either way. So, and you see this, like if you do computer work with cloud and scaling, you see this all the time, right? Where the quantity one stuff works, that runs on one machine for one user. That's easy to do. Any idiot can build that code for anything. It's really easy to build, right? And in fact, ChatGPT can do it. The problem is if you try to make it a two-user system, everything breaks, right? Because now you have to recode most of the code, and there's a technical reason for that. There's off by one errors, and there's the first instance error, right? That in programming, where the first instance is easy, but making it recursive is harder because you have to account for all these things. When you add users, it's the same thing, right? And then if you add, multi-tenancy, which is multiple groups of users, right? And then if you scale up in terms of number of people hitting it at once, that creates a whole different set of problems. You can make any of those problems go away within limits. But once you get outside of those limits, everything changes. And this is actually well reflected in the computer literature. There's a famous paper called this, I think it's called this, the C10K problem or something, where they're talking about the original web servers are not fast enough to do, this is a very old paper by this point. Web servers are not fast, and we need all new technologies. And then, of course, we had most of them. And then they wrote new web servers, the new one's called Nginx, basically. And then when they did that, it enabled web at a scale that was insane, and it's 10,000 concurrent operations or something like that. I read the paper. It was just so old I can't remember all the details anymore. But that's the thing. Like, and now we're out of that. Like, that's not enough anymore. Now we need a new method. Well, you had to change all the tech. So we had web servers, and then we had web servers at scale, right, with like Apache, and then they had to change that technology to get to C10K problem solved. And now they have to, and I think they've already solved it, but there's another set of problems you have to solve to get past that. And then that's only going to work. You're not going to implement that for under 10K, right? Or under 100K or whatever barrier we're at. You're not going to, and then you're not going to implement it after whatever the scaling point is there. So the linearity is there, but it just, you can't scale infinitely, right? You can't do a continuous system that never ends.
Well, will they reach an endpoint of how many people can be on the internet? I know, just to redefine what you're just talking about. Well, because the number of people joining the internet is going to increase for the next few.
No, because the internet isn't a thing. This is where people get confused.
That's right.
Yeah. So like you can max out Discord, you can max out StreamYard, you can max out YouTube, but you can't max them all out, and not everybody wants to do those things. And so, right, because the internet just enables a bunch of different technologies, and then the network is so big. Like we have I think in 2005, we said 93% of the fiber was dark. So we've got lit fiber that's in use. Not all of that was in use. And then the fiber that wasn't even turned on was way more than the fiber that was. And so as we've been turning that on, and I don't know what the ratio is today because I don't follow that stuff anymore because it's not relevant. But as we turn on more bandwidth, we can have more users. They just can't. But that's different from what they're doing on the network. So like if they're doing torrents, or they're doing YouTube, or they're doing BitChute, because BitChute's actually way different from YouTube from a tech perspective. It uses a different type of bandwidth in a different way, right? And that's why decentralization is big, because all the scaling advantages for the internet came through decentralization, all of them. Right, but that doesn't solve all the problems. In fact, it creates a bunch more problems, creates way more problems than it solves, as it turns out. But people haven't figured that out yet, so it's fine.
Yeah, which leads to silly people like the Muppet that is John Favicki saying that we can decentralize AI. Like,
by definition,
fundamentally you're wrong.
That. Yeah, it's just so silly that anybody would say such a silly thing that it's like, I can't engage with yourself.
Even I picked up on it. I'm not a techie guy.
I know. Yeah. Well, there's so many contradictions in that talk. I really should reach out to Catherine and see if
the fact that he gets people like all assuming it was virtuous for him to get emotional about AI was weird too. I haven't pointed that out yet. Like, why is him getting emotional about this particular subject virtuous? Like, beware what people, that's.
There are so many. See, I really do want to do a breakdown on that video because there's so many soothsayer tells in there. There's so many tells for bad behavior.
Let's do it. Maybe that's our first collab video. I'll give you the Muppet take, and you'll give me the absolute ruthless technical take.
I've got that spot reserved for somebody else, sir. But
Okay.
We should do a video though. We should figure out.
Oh yes, please.
Live or not live, and we should just get that done.
Well, we need to actually watch it on a stream together. I think that's what we need to do. Find a time, find a night.
Maybe we get shut off.
Daytime for me. No, we'll just watch it offline on Discord, even if we'll just hit play at the same time or something like that. and see if we have.
Oh, we
the
could
same-
watch it. No, we could watch it together on Discord. That'd be easy to.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but we can't watch it. We can't watch it. We can't watch it on the YouTubes. But yeah,
Yeah,
I guess people could
Emmanuel
come
and I,
if we tell them, hey, we're doing this then and there. I guess people can.
yeah, no,
If you want-
Manuel
if
and I
you wanna get
did
more-
that with the game A, game B stuff, where we watched
Right.
it together and took notes. And it, we got a Google Doc, so we're taking notes in the same file, and I'd write a bunch of stuff, and he'd write a bunch of stuff. It was really good. It just took forever. My God, the amount of work that went into that, man hours wise, holy crap! That video, like
Thing is, you're
that
both-
video is
it's-
more work than
yeah.
any 10 of my other videos combined.
The first half an hour too, you guys are both so stoic and so cold. I've only watched one of the game. I think it was not the beauty talk, the aesthetic talk of it. It was just the theoretical talk on. You guys were so like you had so much to say, but you're so stoic and stone like. I was like, guys, you gotta. Where's the warmth? We gotta.
No,
Eventually
we were
we do
just
get
trying
that.
not to like rip into it and say, look at these evil people doing these evil things because they're evil, right? Because that's what I wanted to do. See, this
Yeah.
is evil and that's evil, and here's more evil. And I was just like, I can't do that.
Yes. Yes. But that could get more people to your Mark of Wisdom Discord server if we tell people, hey, we're gonna live watch it, or we're gonna live press play, and we can all enjoy and we're just gonna start pause anytime we're actually getting. I don't know how many times I'm gonna stop. I do this all the time with Christina. Sometimes it so annoys her. I was like, no, you're gonna miss this. I have to explain this. Why you should be seeing it. She hates me sometimes.
Yeah,
If you're not trained to see these things, because if you have, I did it. Well, I think it was a third or second time watching Dune, the new Dune movie. I was like, okay, well, stop here. Okay, so that's not the book, and the reason we're saying that, right, that they actually put a utopian vision inside of Dune, the new Dune movie, by the way, and it's not called he's going on a crusade now. He's not going on a jihad at the end of the movie. Very interesting reframing. If you want to know more, you can always chat to me offline. But I'm actually may do a Dune deconstructed video because I have some other bones to pick with. I love Villeneuve. I think he's doing great work. I think it's a good adaptation. But man, is he massaging some of his own sort of leanings into, or the producer's own leanings into the source material, which is quite dangerous because that book is radioactive. If you don't know, that book is the whole series is radioactive. I guess anytime you're touching on Nietzsche, you're touching on radioactive material. So there's that. Well, yeah, it's radioactive. It can be. You can use radioactive materials for good, right? You can have nuclear technology. It can be used for good, but it could blow up the world at the same time. Or you have Chernobyl, where people don't know how to use it properly.
Right. Nietzsche's another one, psychological projection of trauma onto the world. So obvious too, It's like Kierkegaard.
Freud
Kierkegaard is the Luther of Lutheranism. That's his whole shtick. It's the whole thing.
Kind of thing. But yeah, I was pointing out different things I'm doing the other day. She was getting some of it she was appreciating, some of it she was getting annoyed. I was like, no, stop here. Let's appreciate the scene. Let's rewatch it. This has changed.
How do you handle Donnie Darko then? Because that movie's like, yeah, exactly.
I've seen all three versions, and
there are 3 versions. I didn't know that.
There's an internet cut, there's the director's cut, and then there's the theoretical cut. So the internet cut includes everything. Well, there was a version of it that I watched on the internet, which was all the different bits and pieces all combined in one. This is the early Vimeo days, where Vimeo was like cowboy Wild West. You could just do whatever you want.
Cool back in the day.
Oh no, I don't know why. It was like a switch was flicked, and then like no one went to Vimeo anymore. It was really strange. I don't know if we should ever talk about that.
I agree.
But
there was another. Another site too. There was a site called videolectures.net. And man, I learned so much, like, and that was all AI stuff back in the day too. I learned so much AI. I was just like, this is great. It was all video lectures, people at colleges just, giving a lecture to 12 students. And it was just like, absorbed it all up. It was fantastic.
I know Jared Leto bought Fandango. That was another Vimeo like platform. He basically bought it and tanked it, which is strange. Let's not talk about that online. But yeah, I think that's what happened to Vimeo. I think the ownership or the leadership changed, and it just got siphoned off. I also think the YouTube law or copyright legislation in the different countries changed, and that's what killed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what killed Vimeo, because people used to do like an alternate cut of this, and you could just go and watch it, and you appreciate different things. Someone did to Django Unchained. They took out all the spicy elements from Quentin Tarantino's movie. I thought it was an interesting experiment.
That's heresy, but I
know,
but because those are the worst parts of his movie are the spicy bits, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it's a pure experiment, though. I always wanted to now it's just Jesse talking to the internet, but I always wanted to recut a movie called Alien Covenant with Ridley Scott's befumbled the last Alien movie. It's like a lot of great potential in there, but man, did they screw that movie up. And I had friends that were working on the sets down here, and they did it in Australia and Sydney, and they were telling me how much was getting reshot on the day, that they flew all these different Hollywood people down to reshoot things, re-edit things, like then and there, like on the day. And I think the editors were working on the film up until the second last day of launch in LA. Like that's how much a mess that movie was.
Wow.
Same thing with Suicide Squad, by the way. Yeah. But yeah, there's been a fundamental change in the telos of this internet. So I guess I'll build it back up. There's been a fundamental change to. You used to have these YouTube, what do you call it, like lectures? And what lectures? They were Vimeo discussion channels. They've all been slowly, the rug's been pulled under the curtain. Nerd Rider was another, it was a great example of that.
Yeah, well, and it's all been put in one place on one platform. So like videolectures.net was cool because what they did was they had a technology that would show you the video here and the whiteboard over here. And so you had the whiteboard or the slides separate from the video of the lecture.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, it was so cool. And I look at that and I go, yeah, I could write that in a week. Like there's nothing software. It's literally nothing software to write. But they actually did it and put it together and got it to work, that's where the hard part is. So yeah, it was cool stuff. Can
you do that and make money? Should you do that and just make some money?
No one will pay for it. Look, I've explained this to people before. Like, okay, you don't like Amazon. I personally by myself can build every service on Amazon because they're all open source, and you could, right? But it's so much money. Right, it's such a huge initial investment, and then of course nobody believes me, like literally nobody. Like I go on interviews and I'm like, okay, this technology, whatever, I wrote that, and they're like, no, you didn't. And I'm like, yeah, actually everybody did back in the day. Like these things are not big deals, and everybody thinks like, oh, they're super magic technologies. Like, no, they're not. Actually, this is standard stuff for a software engineer, a real software engineer, not a modern software engineer. They're all dumb, but. No, it's really funny. The stuff.
See channel.
Can't be done.
Personal channel. See your personal channel.
I put that stuff there. Yeah. I'll do more of that. But it's remarkable the stuff people don't know about. I'm like, no, we used to do this all the like everyone's like, yo, configuration is code. I'm like, all right. So you mean you checked in the files that determine how your infrastructure runs? And they're like, well, no, it's not really that simple. Like, no, it's exactly that simple. I was doing that in the 90s, literally in the 90s, for real. Like, this is not new, and they're like, oh, it's brand new and DevOps. I'm like, no. I was doing DevOps before it was called DevOps. This is not new. It's not new. It's just not. They're like, no, it's brand new. And I'm like, no, you just made up a name. That's it. Although DevOps is the best named thing in computer science of all time. Unfortunately, they've corrupted it, but it was initially spot on. So yeah, these people think all this stuff is new, and I'm like, no, it's they're like, oh, Google's got the best search algorithm ever, and I'm like, no, actually they don't. What they have is the best information gathering system ever, and because they gathered more of the internet, they had a better search engine. Because if you have the best algorithm in the world with no data, is worth nothing. It doesn't work, right? Algorithms need the data. But if you have better data, you can have a worse algorithm. It doesn't even make any difference because the better data is more important at the end of the day. And people don't know, they don't really understand how this stuff works. So yeah,
the container matters. The container is probably more important than the data.
Framing matters more. Always, framing matters more. What determines framing? Telos. This is why it's because, like I said, with the spell check algorithms, spell check algorithm doesn't work because it's a large language model spell checker, and spell check is 200 lines of code in a dictionary, and that spell check is way better at spell checking than a large language model. Why? Because a large language model has a limit. It can't do two things. It can't do spell checking because that's not language, right? That's mostly typing errors. Most spell check problems are typing error problems. And the other thing it can't do is write stories. Why? Because stories are above language. So you're in this weird middle layer that actually has very little ultimate utility without a lot of help, right? And so it can't write good stories and it can't do spell check, but it can do other things really, really well. Like there's some cool stuff, but you have to specifically train it. That's why prompt engineers make 6 figures right now. And I've actually been trying to figure out how to be a prompt engineer. I'm like, all right, I'll just be a prompt engineer. I don't care. But I haven't even figured out how to get that job because I'd be really good at it.
Let's do it. How do we do that?
I don't know. I've been looking. I just don't know how to get paid for writing prompts. Because I could write good prompts.
There's intern somewhere. Intern online for somewhere. That's the easiest. Let's just go steal someone else's system of learning, and then you obviously, knowing you, Mark, you'll just do it better or just figure it out quicker. It's like, I'm interning. It's like, no, I'm just figuring out how to get around not interning anymore, and then
right.
Well, yeah, that'd be my
most getting of jobs, especially now, is who you know, not what you know.
Yeah,
because nobody can determine what you know, right? So
exactly.
It's who you know, and yeah, and then with the whole fake news virus scandemic, and moving. If I were in Boston, this wouldn't be a problem. If I were in Charlotte, this wouldn't be a problem. In Columbia, South Carolina, it's a problem, right? So, it's just
surely you can intern online though. Surely remote working is a bit more
remote.
feasible.
Now remote is like no. Like everyone's written the articles. Remote work failed experiment, right? So they're not
really.
Yeah. Okay. And remote work, you're competing with a larger pool because you're competing with literally everybody in the industry all of a sudden. So that's the downside to remote work, because people then think they can get somebody that knows their specific thing, which is literally impossible. But it seems that way because there's more people willing to lie about what they know and figure out what it is. And it's easier in a random system, if you have a larger set, to find exactly what you're looking for, even though it's actually random and not what you're looking for. You don't know that. You have no way to assess these things. And that's actually the problem, right? It just turns out that it's all illusion at the end of the day, and so it's very hard to narrow these things down and
Well, didn't what was our Machu Picchu said that we're essentially postmodern is the end of the illusions. I think that was a summary of his tweet the other day, which I found very, very fascinating.
Yeah, that's true.
Context, but that was
But the end of the illusion is the realization that you need a monarch. Like it's ironic, right? It's ironically saying no, tyranny is required. Like there's no other way to do it. We can't cooperate without tyranny. So Adam made me.
I don't know if you'd say tyranny. I don't know if
No,
you
it
say
is
tyranny.
tyranny. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
Okay.
call for
All right.
tyranny.
You want to say it that way? I don't know.
No,
if I
we call for
agree.
tyranny. We call for tyranny. Adam made me watch this British series called Monarchy with David Starkey, and it's
Mm.
wonderful. It's really
I've
wonderful.
got the book. I've got the Magna
Yeah,
Carta book. I've got to read. Yeah.
I learned a lot from watching that series. I learned a real lot. And then Mary Harrington today tweeted out, we need to stop talking about, I forget which things, and start talking about the English Civil War. And which is ironic because Adam and I have been working on that's the video we're doing next is the English Civil War. That's why I had to watch Monarchy to understand that. And now I have to do some more research because there's a bunch of stuff missing in there that I absolutely need to know. But that's what we're going to do. And that was the setup because we've done the bracketing around that already. So it's like, oh, we already covered sort of the French Revolution and we sort of covered the American Revolution. We sort of covered what happened afterwards. Right now we need to go all the way back and start with the English Revolution so that we can understand all that stuff. I thought it was funny that Mary Harrington tweeted about it today. I'm like, we're literally working on that. We're gonna make it happen. So then we'll tell her when we do it. Maybe it'll get retweeted. We'll find out.
Well, PVK interviewed her, so maybe you could do some swimming.
Oh no, we'll do our full court press on that. What I want to do though is I want to get my stupid website fixed and all that, but I'm just overwhelmed with technology that doesn't work. So
tell us.
Yeah, we need WordPress. Tell us. Anybody that's got WordPress and some time, hit me up. We'll chat.
It'll be 2 weeks before I can. Yeah, it'll be another 2 weeks or so before I can even start on the audio stuff. But once I can, I just got some photography work coming through. So
that's fine. Oh no, that's good.
Well,
I got it all ready for you because somehow my editor's like, "Oh, I can do that. That's easy." And I'm like, "All right, we'll go strip all the audio out of videos." Problem solved.
I know it. It's just making sure that your room doesn't sound so reverby. It's all nice audio levels like this mic right here.
Well, the older stuff sounds reverby, right? And then
I know.
As I went, I fixed sound and lighting, a little bit at a time. So
you just got to order some acoustic foam. You'd be fine. You put it in your corners in your room. At least one of the corners. This side.
I have a yoga mat behind me for that reason.
Yeah, but no, it needs to be all the way up the wall on a corner, and then you'd get rid of some of your.
No. Actually, all I need for this room is to hang stuff here, and more boats, and that'll actually fix it.
Well,
I still need the yoga mat
too. Yeah, you need, but all the other one would be right on top of you. You'd do an acoustic window there. That would solve things.
No, I have one.
Really?
Yes, it's a side effect of having the light diffused because I have a light diffuser over the lamp.
Okay.
I have a huge light diffuser right over my head. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's probably what's helped a bit.
Hey, Tim.
Who's Tim?
Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Hello. I
Hello.
heard you talk about audio stuff. One thing that might help you find all your reflections is just get a little compact mirror and put it on the wall. And if you see the speaker in it, that's where you got to put your absorbing foam.
I know that, but Mark's a techie into that guy with 9 screens. Like getting him to do a basic audio setup is my agenda.
It's look, I've improved it tremendously, and it needs more work. Like, in fact, I'm reverby today because I forgot to put the pillow against the door. So I have a pillow that I put against the door, and that reduces the verb from the door. And like, there's a piece of foam behind the whiteboard, and that wasn't actually for sound. And then I realized, oh, that's also helping the sound situation. So yeah, I could do more foam for the whiteboard too, because I only have one piece there, but I have more foam that I can put there. I have to think about these things, and then I have to actually go and do them. That's like too much.
Tim, where are you from? Do we know you?
I just started joining the video streams. I've been kind of watching from afar for a few months. Unfortunately, you guys usually, you or Jacob, are streaming when I'm not available for life reasons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to do more stuff at different time frames. Like we did the video Thursday. Manuel and I did that in the middle of the day, and it got a decent amount of views. It didn't get a lot of live views, but it's doing okay. It's got over 200 views between the 3 channels, or 4 channels.
Yep. So yeah, I'm based out of Idaho.
Oh, okay.
But I'm actually from California. I was born and raised there. We just moved here post-COVID, as California didn't want me doing software engineering in California anymore. So
that makes sense. Yeah. I can. Well, I'm glad you escaped the hell. That's good.
Yeah. Yep. So the other thing too is that in your previous video for this stream, you guys, you, at the very end, you talked about Almost Famous, and you're right that the story was real. They just changed the names to protect the artist.
Yeah.
Because it's actually based on his first article for Rolling Stone, which is actually the Allman Brothers, right after Greg Allman's brother died. And so, due to everything that's going on there, they put some of the lines in there from there because of just the paranoia here Greg Allman was going through at the time, and changed the ending a little bit.
Right.
It wasn't that they called to confirm and they denied everything. It was the night that he flew back, they confiscated all of his notes.
Right.
Because they thought that he was working with the FBI or CIA due to paranoia.
Yeah. But wasn't he like a kid? Wasn't he like 17?
Yeah, he was a kid. He was like 13 or 14.
Peter Trivers, right?
Yeah, he was really
Rolling
young.
Stones, Peter Trivers, I think.
Yeah. And he got it back a few months late, like 6 or 8 months later, because one of his friends was still touring with him and was able to convince him. And by that point, Greg wasn't on drugs. He was like, I don't even know why I have this. You can have it back, sure.
Nice.
And that's when he was able to print his article for Rolling Stone, and that's what basically started his career.
Right. Yeah, no, that yeah, you can tell. Like there's certain movies you can tell, like, I don't know, this is just diary entries. They didn't write it. They didn't write a fictional story here at all. They just wrote what happened.
Yeah.
Has that? Yeah.
Yep. So it's actually Stillwater's the fake band, but the band he was actually touring with for that was Greg Allman and the Allman Brothers.
Yeah, the Allman Brothers band, wasn't it?
Yep. Right after Greg Allman's brother had died, like within like a couple of months, was when he was touring with
them.
So
I have one of the albums.
A lot at that time.
They're like a blues rock band.
Yeah.
So, the good old days.
There was a lot of 70s blues rock. You don't like the subwoofer woof 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 music?
I like some of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's done, really well, like if you get some really good organ music, oh man, it can. If you have a good subwoofer setup and you have like the organ music that goes down to the lower bass regions, that's the closest you'll ever get to actually hearing a real live pipe organ in like a really good acoustic church.
I'm talking about this post Skrillex era of music, where everything's just getting to. Yeah.
I think about the only one that does that well is this guy by the name of Clay Scott. He's gone under a couple different band names. It's just him, Cell Dweller and Circle of Dust. Cell Dweller, he's done more of the post Skrillex stuff, but he's about the only one that used that in a way that made it tell a story as opposed to just monotonous. Yeah.
Bubbles is leaving. Till next time, man. Yeah, I don't know. I was listening to.
I'm a man of principle. I think pop music died in 2010. I think pop music was the pre-culture war. I think it was.
No.
Yeah.
Culture was a bad frame, Jesse. What are you doing?
Oh, come on. I'm trying. You know what?
You're killing me. You're killing me. There's no culture war.
Okay, we'll call it Gamergate. We'll call it Gamergate then.
It really is. Like, dude, so many things happened in 2014. I gotta do a video on 2014 just because so many things happened, and I don't even have a list. I gotta like compile the list.
What we need to do is we need to subscribe to the Anadromous Burn Power. We just need to rankle him into a room and offer him a little bit of a thing, and yeah. prick him. I still want to follow up about his 3 visions of reality. He said he did a half talk about that in the German Bridges of Meeting conference, and he kind of fumbled through a whole bunch of really interesting notes, but he never really emphasized anything on his 3 visions of reality. I've always wanted to pin him down about that.
Yet. They didn't.
No, he has. He's been kind of a bit held up with something. It's hard to say.
Yeah, they've been held up by people who can't get things done. Right. Catherine got all the videos out for, all professionally recorded and out for Thunder Bay. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Just the German folks, they just were never on it. Production problems.
The German folks not being very German.
Well, it was
usually they're pretty efficient.
It was the fake Netherlanders who moved from the U.S. Right? Cassidy and and the crew in the Netherlands there, which is too bad because I was looking forward to seeing those videos. But I should go back to the Thunder Bay videos too because there's some real gems in there that I should just pick apart. But it's so hard. Things are moving so fast, although they're moving in a bad direction. Everything's sort of flying apart, and people are getting good. John's doing crazy videos on AI where he's just talking about stuff he knows nothing about, and it's just getting worse. It's like, what is happening? Gino will be interesting.
And we need to talk about we need to talk about Vanilla Sky too to get it back to Cameron Crowe and almost famous.
You know what? That's actually one Cameron Crowe film I have not seen yet.
Oh, you gotta see it. Oh, you gotta see it. You gotta see it twice. First time you won't get it. The second time is far more interesting because you see the subtext clearer. The subtext is actually not that interesting. I'm not going to tell you right now what subtext is.
Come on! What didn't I see in my first watching? Oh goodness! What should I look for in the second watching?
What references are pointed out and what aren't? Because
I love
all
the references game.
Thread of references. And you're like, hey, why is this important? What are you doing here? Because it's not that important to the narrative that he has like a sea of references. Like literally I think the movie's about the internet ultimately. I don't think it's about existentialism. I think it's literally about the creation of the internet. But maybe it's just in my slightly spooky sense of things. It's I think that film is you could say it's a primer for Gamergate. It's telling you about what's about to be lost, not what's about to be found.
Right.
They're burying the lead would be another one. Burying the hatchet.
Any thoughts on nostalgia? There we go.
Well, that's another thing. That's exactly it. That's what Vanilla Sky is about.
Right. And why has it naysayed? Well, look, there is this thing called progressivism that is a disease. See my video on progressivism on navigating patterns. There is this disease of progressivism that causes people like John Vervaeke to say we can't go back. And then, of course, he goes back. And then when that doesn't work, he goes back further, which I think
steal the culture.
Funny.
We're going to steal the culture.
Neoplatonism. No, that's not. No, that doesn't work. After Socrates, we'll go back a little bit further than Neoplatonism. It's like, really, John? That's your strategy for not going back, right? Well, they don't want to lose anything. And that's why you don't want nostalgia, because if you get nostalgic, what are you going to give up to go back? You have to give something up. Maybe it's the whole internet, which, I'm kind of like, oh, well, that's not a bad idea. I'm okay with that, actually, right? Because how do you get high-paying jobs back in your area? You stop competing with everybody else in the world for the same stupid effing job, right? And now the only people that know about the good cushy job at the bank are the people that live in your area because it's advertised in the newspaper and not smattered all over the internet where anybody can bid on it, right? Because that's the problem. Like when you import the cheap labor from India, you destroy the culture and the lifestyle because they're willing to live, 6 people to a 3-bedroom apartment and you're not, right? And it's like, well, your quality of living is going down by competing with all these people. So
I think though you have to kind of go back further, and I'm just going to say, just to summarize it, I think the Amish got it right in that regards. Because
that's a compelling argument. a lot of people have said, no, the only people who are going to survive are the Amish. And I'm like, well, that's actually not necessarily wrong. So that could be true. Chad, I don't think nostalgia is homesickness, actually. I think what they're actually pointing to with nostalgia is they're pointing to the desire for something in the past. And homesickness is particular and specific. And I think, and they're not doing a good job at telling you this, but I think that if you have a spiritual home, your material home doesn't matter so much, right? That's the home is where the heart is, right? But that heart has to be co-located in the ethereal realm and have a home there. Then the material home doesn't matter. And that's what they're not, talking about.
Or even a home is like a church.
What
a church
not
was
leave out when
usually the
making a
second
case
home.
for nostalgia? I don't. No, homesickness was a medical diagnosis. Nostalgia was not a medical diagnosis. He's going off of a Vanderclay video.
Right. Someone needs to get the message to Vanderclay to stop doing so many videos every week. It's like, do 3, you'll get better results.
Yeah, I mean the longing for the past can be a problem, right? I mean it's a weird situation.
Like,
I
think sometimes the longing for the past is because there's things that were done right in the past that we've lost now. And that's where I was saying, like, I'm not saying initially go back and do it exactly the way the Amish do it, but what the core thing that they get correct is everything's local communities. Because once you get beyond like a small group of people, you have problems with scalability of being able to know who's telling the truth. Where if you have a small knit community, you know exactly who's telling the truth and really what the skill set is.
So my nostalgia thing isn't actually coming from the Vanderclay video. I actually did some research around nostalgia and the etymology of it. So, I mean, we could blame etymology online if you want, but that's literally what it was. It was homesickness. So
that's definition number 2 in Merriam. So, like, fair enough.
So, I mean, and I think so what I was trying to point at was what I think you can't leave off the table if you want to make a case for accepting nostalgia as something valid is, I think proper tradition in its place. I think, like you can't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's when I think about things that I'm nostalgic about. There's a reverence for tradition, or family tradition, or even it could be a national tradition. Things like this, they're important.
No, I agree. The war against nostalgia is actually the war against tradition. That sounds correct.
Yeah.
Making nostalgia a negative thing, and yeah, it'd be curious to know when it turned negative, because nostalgia to me was never negative, right? It was whimsical, but it was never negative.
Right. Well, and then the way
I can make a spot.
Go ahead.
If I can make a point though, when you talk about nostalgia in terms of homesickness, you're talking about it in a materialistic frame. If you look in the other sense of nostalgia, it says to heal or to recover.
Yeah, no, I'm not looking at it in materials frame.
No, but that's what, if you agree to nostalgia predominantly equals homesickness, you're going to miss the other side of nostalgia, which is the sense of recovery, healing, the embodied sense of depression there.
Yeah.
Which is, it doesn't have a materialistic bent to it, which is where I think where we're at. Like, we're nostalgic for a place we've never been, or nostalgic for a place that we used to be. You get half the truth, you could say. You're not fully aiming, it's not fully oriented.
But it's not the place itself. It's the things that make that place. It's the relationships and memories that make that place up. And I think that's So that's not really the material. So like in the article that I wrote, I talked about places I did go as a child and memories I have, but the memories were really shaped not by the place itself, but the relationships that happened
Right.
there.
Right. And when you focus on the relationships, you change it out of the material.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you re-enchant it, right? Because materialism flattens everything. And then it becomes a different thing. So yeah, I mean, this is right in the etymology, to recover. It's not just a sickness. There's a recovery in that word.
Right.
And they're just ignoring that side because materialism. And yeah, that's the
so
problem.
That being said, as we move forward in time, is the internet a place that you can truly even have nostalgia? Like, can nostalgia really be born out of interactions on the internet, do you think? Because I think it's interesting because, I mean, yes, we're having somewhat of a relationship. I mean, we've had one kind of, we've talked on video and stuff, but it's not, I don't know if it can be anything. And maybe that's why guys like Vervaeke are like saying no to nostalgia, because like they recognize that you can't actually have nostalgia on
they're casting it as negative. And I think that, but the reason why John casts it as negative is because he says we can't go back. He says that like 19,000 times in Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. And that's fine, but it's wrong. It's just observably just false. People go back all the time. Like if you went the wrong way, you have to go back. Like, there's no choice about that, right? It's just
and there's nostalgia.
My thing would be
going back, because I think it's not about going back. It's about bringing something forward.
Yes.
No, going back is creating a vulnerability, right? When you retreat from your enemy, you turn your back towards your enemy. You're actually allowing yourself to be slightly vulnerable, and that's the very thing that John doesn't want. He doesn't want to be vulnerable. But if you look at Peterson, reason why the relationships people have formed with Peterson on the internet was purely because there was a certain time that we was a collective sense of vulnerability of joining to whatever the Peterson movement was, which created a vulnerability in us, as well as it was a time of vulnerability itself.
But also Peterson appeals to the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
But John doesn't. What John does is he says, let's go to the past, and here's a problem. And let's go to the past, and here this explains this problem. Let's go to and this explains this problem. But you know what didn't have any problems? Neoplatonism.
Here's something. If you try to construct nostalgia in an arena that doesn't have a body, I think that's where you get really weird shit happening.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about with like Peterson, the Peterson waves. I mean, and then maybe how people might gather in their little corners or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that bad shit can happen there because there's nothing there to give you real boundaries to bump up against.
There's no telos.
Right.
Literally, there's no telos, and so there's no container, and because you can't define it, and so it spins out of control. But Peterson and Vervaeke are emergence is good guys. They don't necessarily know that, but they act as if emergence is good. That's why they're okay with drugs, because emergence is good and drugs cause emergence. Like, okay, like fair enough, but also no, we know this is wrong. We know this is wrong. Like the scientific data is in, guys. Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
To what you're saying too, there, Chad, if you enchant a place that doesn't have a fixed body, you're leaving yourself spiritually open. You're actually allowing yourself to be spiritually open, which is what circling is fundamentally.
Right.
Like you are actually increasing your vulnerability to phenomena. I love the word phenomena. So it's just you can remark on things. Well, it doesn't matter. Like the way things happen, right? We can call them different names. So just say something remarkable happened when we spiritually opened ourselves up to something.
Right.
Like I remember going to, used to be part of this Pentecostal church, right? And so there's a certain arena that we have where we had a conference. 3 to 4 weeks later, 30 Seconds to Mars, the Gnostic cult Jared Leto band, had the same type of concert with the same type of music. And the people there were doing the same actions as the Pentecostal movement that happened 4 weeks ago. That's what broke me. I was like, whoa, what's happening here? Like, it's the same arena. It's a place that's spiritually open to. It's not a traditional environment. That one tribe has come in, it's on a set of actions. Now different tribes come into the same place, but there's a very different sense of phenomena that's happening between the two. Mm-hmm. Very different sense, because what's the telos of this gathering is very different, and it creates a spiritual vulnerability.
That's why you need both. Like, you can't just do the thing. You can't take the procedure and transport it, right? Because the telos matters. And even if the procedure matches the telos, but it's a different telos, you're going to get different stuff, because that's what telos does. It gets you different stuff.
Right. And I would say it'd be very unwise to try to construct a nostalgic let's say nostalgia can't exist without love. How about that? That's probably a good way of looking at it. And what I mean is, like, the relational aspect. So you and I are sharing in a fandom of 30 Seconds to Mars, but there's not really love there. Now, maybe my wife.
My problem was there was love there, but it was a rock and a shoe for me. I carried that phenomena of noticing these two different events happening within the space of, say, 2 months, right? And that me seeing the same actions by two different tribes with the same type of music was something I couldn't shake for years. It was like a rock and a shoe. I mentioned that.
Yeah, and
then eventually it broke me, because I realized what was happening there was one set was praising the right thing and the other was doing something completely different.
Yeah, that's different. Now I would say the one that's praising the right thing is one that's rooted in love, and the other is an attempt to be rooted in love but doesn't have an anchor to love, unless, like I said, let's say my wife and I are really big 30 Seconds to Mars fans. Now we can have some nostalgic moments from the time that we went to the 30 Seconds to Mars show, and like, it was a wonderful thing, but the nostalgia is not about that particular, exactly the band. It's about, like, the whole event there and our time together in our lives at that time. And so that's why love is at the bottom of it. But yeah. All right, guys.
Love will heal the wound that event phenomena happened.
Yeah.
That's how you know there's love there. It's because you can carry these rock and shoes, these wounds, whatever you want to call, like, whatever you want to container you want to put it in. But it's love is what heals or creates the potential for the nostalgia to be properly oriented.
And I think the nostalgia will survive the storms of life too. You know, because I can still have some pretty terrible events that happen that are tied together around some of those people and different events. But there are some good things that I will remember that will be, and those are the things that our lives are built on, I think. So I'd love to stick around, guys, but I got to get to bed now. But
all right, sleep well, my friend.
Have a good one.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. When there is something like Peterson talks about, resurrecting the Father, right? He talks about revivification, right? And that's like, those are very old sorts of patterns. And so in one sense, we can't go back because that context is gone. The past is the past. In the other sense, though, we have to revive, right? We have to drag out the good stuff from the past and carry it forward, because if we don't, we'll lose it. And then once you lose it, and I think that's 2014. I think 2014 is the break. There we go. Yes, we have to watch the Masters of the Universe. But 2014 is really, I think, the break. That's when we stopped dragging things from the past that were important and started just grabbing random garbage.
Well, I say it's 2010 because that's what the music industry died. So
I'm curious what's important about 2014. This is kind of new to me.
When people started noticing phenomena that was contradictory to traditional values.
No. A bunch of weird breaks happened in 2014. So the biggest thing that happened in 2014 by far that isn't a big thing, but it was the biggest thing eventually, right, was Gamergate. And when you understand what happened in Gamergate, which is just watch Sargon of Akkad's playlist on Gamergate. It's not actually that long. You can watch the whole thing. Once you understand that this man, who is a prophet in every true sense of the word, said, this came from my little community, my tribe. This corruption, and it's just corruption, none of the things that are projected about it are true, it's just a corruption, is going to hit every single system and institution that you know about eventually. And then 9 years later, yes.
Okay, is that the same thing that hit the Southern Baptist? There's a video I watched about 2 years ago. I think it was the Southern Baptist Convention actually adopted as a part of their statement of faith woke ideology.
DEI practices.
DEI, yeah.
No, it's DIE. Let's
DIE,
go with Peter. Original. That was their original. But that was their original thing. I mean, they changed it to DEI because of Peterson. But people don't realize that. Like, Peterson's having a way bigger effect than anybody realizes, because it's not just his followers that he's affecting. He's affecting a whole bunch of people that actually don't like him, and he's affecting a whole bunch of people that don't know anything about it. And no one has any idea. Like, you're not getting it. His effect is enormous. The only person with a bigger effect is Carl Benjamin. Carl Benjamin's effect is so freaking, you can't even imagine. I'm sure I can't even imagine. It's huge. I see it pop up everywhere and I go, oh, I know where that came from. Oh yeah, I know where that came from. Right. And like some of it is reflected in like the t-shirts that I bought, that I still have all of them. A couple of them are getting holes, but you know, it's going to happen after that long. So there are these four Titanic, like it's like Tim Pool before the fake news virus scamdemic was saying, I'm outdrawing CNN, guys. I have more viewers on my show than CNN has on any of their shows. That happened a long time ago at this point. And people are still going like, well, the mainstream media is hanging in there. Like, the mainstream media was dead like a decade ago, guys. They've been declining in the US for 30 straight years. Every year for the past 30 years, viewership has declined. And it was never that high. It was never 10%. Like, well, how much lower can you go from 10%? Right? But it turns out you can go a lot lower. And they're already, I think, in under 1%. And if only 1% of the US population is watching mainstream media, what the hell is going on? Well, they're not moving the narrative. The people moving the narrative are the people online, and they have been for a very, very, very long time. So who's that? That's Daily Wire, right? That's Tim Pool, and it's Carl Benjamin. And there are others, but they're the big three. They have all the audience, basically, right? They're the Pareto distribution on that side.
On that side of things, yeah. Maybe I got to get out, but I'll end on this slightly optimistic note, which won't sound optimistic at first. The depression is a part of the recovery phase.
Yep.
Both economically, spiritually, and even relationally. If you don't go through these peaks and valleys, right, you're in flatland, where everything just feels the same, right? You have a bad nostalgia. Right. You're not recovering anything.
Well, I like that. I like that formulation, relationally, because that's the intimacy crisis.
Well, of course, that's the most immediate, the immediate order of things, right? If you fix the relationships with those around you, all of a sudden your area, your environment starts to feel better, and then you have 30 people doing that. You know, you can change the city.
imagine in a hypothetical situation that you focused everybody out on the largest picture or on a larger picture like the state or the country. And so they weren't spending their time making small local connections that would automatically scale up because they thought scaling had something to do with them, even though they're a Muppet and they can't scale. Imagine that. Just hypothetically, just imagine that. Like it's totally just, yeah, it's just a thought experiment, really. Socially distance.
Oh, by the way, we're talking about. I put this up, right? I do this every stream I show in chat for bringing up nostalgia because.
There we go. Well done. Yeah, you brought that one up before too. I like that one. That's good. That's the ultimate nostalgia right there.
Telos.
Telos.
Telos, the community. What
Community
are you looking at in the picture?
in one picture.
Are you looking at the boat or are you looking at the people?
Right.
There you go.
Right. All right, sir.
Charles, God bless.
Ciao.
Bye. I'll see you.
Tim, what's going on? What do you got for us? Anything?
I'm combination of listening and asking questions because you have some interesting insights.
What have you been watching? What do you watch? Grimm? Do you watch Vanderclown? Do you watch Vervaeke Clown? Which of the clowns do you watch?
Oh, I was actually the first thing I saw of your video was the Suits there. I haven't finished watching it yet. But I've been very busy over here, so the only other stuff I watched is some stuff that Jacob was doing on anti-Semitism. I haven't finished going through that because I think it's like 6 hours, so I've been watching it.
Oh,
and,
yeah, Jacob's got some great content. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I just discovered you guys probably 3 months ago. I think.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, you're very new to this little corner, as they're calling it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I probably came in the opposite direction of how I think because it sounds like you guys were all part of this sort of Peterson phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah. Peterson was the thing that caused all this.
Yeah, and Peugeot is the other name that I recognize.
Yep.
And I think a lot of those people went over to Lord of Spirits. Well, I started with Lord of Spirits and went the opposite direction.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. A lot of those people went to Lord of Spirits. The ones that were already part of a church that were having a crisis of faith. Yeah. They all went to Lord of Spirits.
Yeah. Yep. So now I'm kind of circling back because I think Father Stephen showed up on Jacob's stream, and that's right. And then Jacob posted that the first time on YouTube, and that's when I first started seeing you guys.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, if you came in through Father Stephen, that's funny. Yeah, I did a talk with Paul Vanderklay where I recently too live stream where I was explaining the difference between the meaning crisis and the crisis of faith, and I think he's finally starting to. It's only been 3 years. Jeez, Paul, this is so easy. How come no one gets it? These are different things. They have a lot of overlap, but they're very different things.
Yeah. But a lot of the same things with what you guys are talking about are things I've been thinking about probably for the last 20 years at least.
Yeah, well, it's been bubbling up. I mean, that's one of the things that Jesse mentioned. Burn Power, right? He's the anadromist. He's got a great series on the anadromist YouTube channel where how we got here. It's ridiculously long, and I can't recommend it, even though I watched most of it. It's quite good, but he traces it, trauma from the wars, all the way through the music into the 60s and 70s when things really blew up, and then it's been a cycle since then. And I picked up a few really good gems from that series, but he's basically saying the culture follows the music in a 10-year lag or 5-year lag, whatever it is. I forget if he pins it down or not. And
Did you
and
get that
does
from
it-
Francis Schaeffer?
No, I mean he Byrne was there. Like he was literally there.
Okay.
He was in like New York City when rap was created and he knows a bunch of these guys. It's really
Right.
funny.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he's got his own little formula and framework for that. And that's why I wish that the Germans would release the silly videos so that I could watch them. The ones because we did a conference in Thunder Bay in September that I went to. All those videos are released. Like they're all out there and they're awesome. So the ones from the German festival have not been released yet, which is kind of a bummer.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, because Byrne is probably one of the more interesting integrators because he's talking about art and music and stuff he experienced. And he has all this contrast from New York City to Alaska to Tbilisi, Georgia. It's like, whoa, that's some serious contrasting. You can really show stuff with that kind of contrast.
Yeah. I was just curious if he was getting some of his framework, if you're familiar with Francis Schaeffer and what he did. Because he in the 70s went through a similar crisis of faith and was trying to trace back, like, okay, how did we get to where we're at in the 70s? I think he made a couple of mistakes because I think he was pulling from secondhand information on a couple of the philosophers. So he flipped a couple of them, but the main point still sticks as long as you replace it with a different philosopher than the one he pointed to as one of the main problems. But he does that same thing where he shows it going.
He did Labrie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Byrne was at Labrie.
Oh, then that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I knew I kind of knew the name, but I can't track in his religious stuff. I don't do that. That's not my thing. So I got my own strictly non-religious thing going on for reasons. So yeah, I can't track all that. There's way too much of it too. It's just like it just expands infinitely, you know.
What's your background? If I can ask, like.
I am a self-taught computer engineer guy, basically. Okay. That's it. That's my background. That's my whole background. So I was homeless when I was younger. I never went to college. Yeah, I mean, totally built my whole life by myself. Went through this meaning crisis thing when I was homeless, and then I was like, "What? Why would anybody go through meaning crisis? It's easy to solve. I solved it. It's not a big deal." And it's like, "Oh wow, all these people are lost. What the hell?" You know, and you find the meaning crisis through Peterson. It's like, why would anybody resonate with this? This is all kind of like obvious stock stuff that everybody knows when they grow up, right? Wrong. It's like, oh, okay. You know, and then you get Vervaeke's work. And I made this case on Vanderkleef's channel probably 2.5, 3 years ago now. That my first talk with Vanderkleef's got my name and Peterson's name in the title. It's great. But I said, look, the way to understand Peterson was Vervaeke's Science of Meaning. Right. And now since then, Vervaeke's totally gone off the rails and just said wackadoodle things. But his Science of Meaning is still good. I mean, we still use the framework to help people. So it works. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we've been on Discord for 3.5 or so years, helping people out who are in real trouble, using a lot of the Peterson stuff and a lot of the Vervaeke stuff and a lot of stuff that we've pioneered ourselves. And yeah, that worked great. It doesn't pay the bills, unfortunately. That's a different problem.
Yeah, but I think usually most good things don't make money.
Yeah, you're supposed to make money and do good things afterwards, kind of. But I was trying to combine those two. It didn't really work out. So
yeah. So it sounds like are you pretty big in movie watching? As far
no, I'm not. I don't do media. No, I'm fairly. I mean, I like good movies, but they've got to be recommended because there's a lot of crappy movies.
I hear you.
I'm not a lot with music either. I mean, I like heavy metal, so, but like not all heavy metal. If you start listing heavy metal bands, I'm gonna run out real quick because I only like the top 10% of anything. Same with class. I think it's in the classical. It's like, but if you start talking about most classical, I'll be like, I've never heard of that guy, because I only want to listen to the good stuff. So I'm, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Bach, like, sure, I know those guys. They're great. Vivaldi, Stravinsky, sure, why not, right? Rimsky-Korsakov, yeah.
Okay. No, there's a lot of crap out there, so.
Right. Well, I'm not super well read. Like, I didn't read any of the classics on purpose. I've read one Shakespearean play only because they made me.
Okay.
But you don't need that. That's the other thing too. Like, you don't need any of that. Like, oh, you need to read Plato and Eric. No, you don't. You can figure all that stuff out by yourself. It's actually not that hard. But people get caught up in the fantasy of being smart or knowing something or secret knowledge or whatever, right? They get caught up in Gnosticism. And then they, and it's like, and they can't understand me because I get these very simple models. And they're like, well, what about the third derivative of the second trigonometric function? And I'm like, no, it's really just 2 + 2. Really. And they're just like, no, it can't be that simple. It's like, no, it really is that simple. It's real easy. Yeah, people get caught up. They want these complicated, hard things to solve. And it's like, no, actually, it can't be that way because our ancestors didn't have access to this stuff. And they, I don't know if you heard, I mentioned earlier about the cathedral. Like, it turns out you don't need any advanced mathematics to build a cathedral. None. Zero zip. You can just use these simple geometric principles that you can do with string. And that's actually how they built cathedrals. They just use string. Honestly. They don't need any measurements either, right? Because it's all ratios and proportions. It's not that hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, once you have a pattern of, how long you want something, you can basically just line everything up and just cut it. It's like, okay.
Well, one of the funniest things I ever learned that I thought was just a complete riot was, one of these pyramid debunking videos. What they basically said was, well, the reason why pi is encoded in the Great Pyramid of Giza and all the other pyramids is very, very simple. They didn't use measuring tapes. They used measuring wheels. And then you're like, oh, that totally makes sense because, of course, they're going to do so many wheel rotations.
Right.
And when you do so many wheel rotations, that's going to reflect pi in a way that is unexpected, but also someone's going to figure it out. And It's like, oh, well, that totally makes sense why pi is all over the Great Pyramid. Like, you don't need a conspiracy and ancient aliens to figure it out. It's like, oh, I see. So because you don't have to, like, pi is unconditional. You don't have to know the number to have it show up in a circle because it's in the circle. Like, it's not,
right.
People think like, well, you understand the detail level of everything in order to use the thing. It's like, no one ever does that. That never happened in the history of the universe. What are you talking about? You're a lunatic. We use things all the time and have no idea how they work. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a big, like, you can get into the science of cooking, right? But you can't outcook my grandmother. It's not possible. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't need any of that science nonsense. She's got better methods for knowing. And then it just works. And
right.
You don't need thermometers. Like I love these people who like use thermometers to cook their steaks. I'm like, what, are you kidding me? You can't tell on the grill when something's done? Because I can see it. Because you can. And some people can't. Like, fair enough. But also, like, maybe you should get that skill.
Yeah, it's interesting because my dad cooked for years without a thermometer, but since he's gotten a thermometer, he's actually improved. And his stuff, the way he cooked, was always really good to begin with. So I don't know if I'd be that black and white.
No. I mean, you can definitely improve things, right? Yeah. That's not the issue. The issue is it always better? And is that the thing that's making it better? Because it's not clear to me that it is. And then what are you losing as a result of the measurement? Because one of the problems that we have is that people don't pay attention to what they're doing anymore because they're doing 5 things. So we've enabled ourselves to do 5 things. Well, that's wonderful. But like, what do you lose? Well, you're losing the reflection time and the contemplation time and the meditation time that you'd normally have had. Like, when you drive to the grocery store in 10 minutes, Like you're losing all of that walking time that would normally be spent philosophizing in the correct way, in a participatory way, right?
Yeah.
So you're actually losing stuff, not gaining stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and people don't see that. There's such a richness because they're looking at material things and going, well, materially there's more stuff, there's more quantity, right? There's way more quantity. So more quantity is better. It's like, well, A, no, it's not. And B, what about the quality? Because quality is bigger than quantity. Right? Because that's the thing that opens you up to potential and the future and the way, like, quantity is a one-to-one relationship. Quality is not. Quality is just, it's a many-to-many relationship. So it can go all kinds of places that you can't even anticipate.
That's interesting, because going back to your analogy of, you lost out on the ability when you went to the store, you had a long walk, so you could philosophize. What's really interesting is one of the biggest selling points for the Industrial Revolution was that it would allow you to be able to philosophize more.
Yes, I know. Right. Yeah, that's a good catch. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they want everybody to be more intellectual, but their idea of intellectual is purely in your head, which is actually fantasy. It's not intellectual anymore. And that's what these guys are falling into, right? They're falling into the line between intellectualism and non-intellectualism. And like Vervaeke, to be fair, he tries to get it back with practices. But, he says over and over again, like Aristotle and Plato were wrestlers. Okay, then there's no practice there. You wrestle. Like, why are you trying to invent a practice in place of wrestling? You already know what they did. You can just do what they did. But then he goes, well, we can't go back. We can't go back. No, we should go back. We should go back to wrestling. Like, why is this a difficult equation? It's real easy. We had the answer. We abandoned it. We can go back and get it. We can update it. It doesn't have to be exactly the same answer, but we have the damn answer. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Well, then once you get sort of obsessed with the Industrial Revolution, you start like doing more stuff. It's like, oh, I can do stuff. It's like, can you? I mean, in the Industrial Revolution, are you doing the stuff, or is it a bunch of distributed cognition, some of which is dead, doing stuff? And then you're reaping the benefits, which makes it parasitic. Well, I think it's parasitic.
Right.
And that's why telos is important, because if you don't have one, you're probably being a parasite on something. It's hard to be generative when you're not deliberately being generative. It's easy to destroy, though. That takes very little effort.
Right. But doesn't a parasite also have telos too? I mean, maybe I'm mixing metaphors here, but
I don't think so. I mean, it's worth pondering. I don't have an exact answer for you right off the top of my head, but I don't think it does. I think that is the difference. Like, non-telotic action is parasitic always, or wrong telotic action, because there is, you can go either way with it, right? You'd say you can do the no true Scotsman thing, like everything that doesn't result in manifestation or co-manifestation or co-creation is not telotic. But also you always have a telot, like you're always working towards something. So it's not useful to make that distinction in my mind.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done philosophy. It's like 20 years ago.
So. Philosophy's terrible. Don't do any. That was our live stream on yesterday, on Thursday. There was, don't do philosophy. All the philosophers are trolling you. At least the ones past Aristotle. And there's pretty good evidence that that's true.
I'd have to agree with that. Have you ever, speaking of pointing out them trolling you, have you ever seen Mighty Python skit on? They did a skit where they actually pit the classical philosophers with the modern philosophers in a soccer match.
I'm trying to think. I've probably seen it, but it's not hitting my brain at the moment. It's been a long time since I watched any of that stuff. But yeah, I vaguely remember them doing something like that.
Yeah, it's
I watched I watched Life of Brian recently. Terrible. I was like, why did I find this funny? Oh yeah, I was like, why did I find this funny? This is not actually funny. How did that happen?
Interesting. So you had seen it before and you thought it was funny, and then you saw it again. It's not funny.
It's completely hysterical.
Okay.
I thought it was completely hysterical. I'm a big Monty Python fan.
Yeah.
Then I watched it again recently, and I was like, this isn't funny at all. Like none of this is funny.
Hmm.
There were a couple of jokes, but like I was like, really? How did I find this funny? This is so strange.
What do you think changed in the way that you looked at the world?
Well, I think it's desacralizing now.
Okay.
And I think I just have better desacralization sensors all of a sudden. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. So I was watching Tron Legacy, right?
Okay.
And I rewatched Tron Legacy one day on a whim. I wasn't feeling well. I'm like, I need a movie that can get me back in the groove. And I'll watch some Tron Legacy. It's great film. And I was just like, holy crap! I didn't see any of this stuff before. How did I miss it? It's right there. The refutation of Buddhism is right in that movie, right? The Christ sacrifice is right. I was like, how did I miss this before? Because I'd seen it 4 or 5 times, including in the theater. It was such a great movie. But yeah, it was weird. And then I talk about this in another stream. The movie Superbad. When I first saw that movie, I thought that was the funniest movie that could ever exist in the history of the universe. Like, actually, I was like, no, this is because I could not stop laughing. And then I watched it again several years later, and I was like, this isn't funny at all. Again, there's some funny lines in it, but I was like, how did that happen? And it just turns out it's one of those movies that, because it's new and fresh and exciting, right? The jokes just work, but only once. It's not the only movie like that, but it's the most egregious example, in my opinion, of funny once movies and never funny again.
Right. Yeah. Basically, once the twist happens that makes you laugh, once you expect the twist, it's no longer funny.
Right. You can only do it once. And once you've seen the pattern, it's like, oh, now I'm attuned to the pattern of the movie. And now I get all the stuff way before it happens. And now it's not funny anymore because you've relied on that element of surprise.
Right. Kind of the same problem when you watch puzzle movies, that once you find out what the puzzle is, it's not nearly as interesting going back and watching it again.
Right. Right. And some aren't like that. Like some are just, it doesn't matter how many times I watch The Matrix, even though in many ways it's a terrible movie. The underpinnings are terrible. I still enjoy The Matrix. Like I still find stuff in it and go, oh, because the first Matrix movie is so full of philosophical concepts, it's just chock full of them.
It's still there through the other 3 films as well.
It is. Well, the second film has less, but they're deeper. And the third film has even fewer, but they're way deeper, right?
Yeah.
It just gets deeper. It gets narrower, but deeper in every film. It's kind of funny.
Have you had a chance to listen through the commentary track with Colonel West and I can't remember the other guy, but they're both 2 philosophers.
No.
It's really fascinating because they bring out especially Colonel West, he brings out all of the Eastern religions that influenced the stories, and he actually predicted what they ended up doing in Matrix 4 when the original DVDs got released for Matrix 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Based on what he was following in the story that he was picking up at the time, I completely missed, but now through becoming Orthodox and then also going through Lord of Spirits, I was like, okay, I can track that. Like what he was picking up was, he was way ahead of the curve.
Right. Well, and that's part of the thesis that Manuel and I have, and some others that we developed on the Awakening from the Meaning Crisis Discord server. Right. We have this whole model around loss of poetic information, and then you get that back. Now symbols work, and you can see patterns everywhere.
Right.
And you don't abandon propositions, but you lessen propositions and sort of increase your intuitive knowledge.
Right.
And that seems to be the thing. Like that's how you get people unstuck and get them out of meaning crisis, is you give them a way to relate, not linearly, not one-to-one, but many to many. And that allows them to embed, but they have to buy into hierarchy and submission. Because if you don't buy into hierarchy and submission, it's not going to work, right? Because you have to, if you're trying to understand the world by yourself, you're screwed. You're just not smart. No one's smart enough. And that's what people don't want to hear, because they've been told the opposite for so long. It's like, yeah, they just lied to you. It's okay. Get over it and move on.
Yeah, if you think you can understand the world, just look at any Fortune 500 company and how much they're feeling. Despite the CEOs that think they know everything, but the truth is,
there's tons of examples, right? They're every, like I can, and that's the thing, like I can drill down on a bunch of stuff with people and lose them instantly and go, so you don't know anything about this. It's really powerful. I mean, it shakes people up. They're like, oh, I thought I knew something on this topic. I'm like, no, you don't. And that's the thing. Like, ooh, once you sort of humble yourself and like find humility, it's like, oh, but once you do that, you're free. Because now you realize I don't have to worry about what's going on in the White House, right? I don't have to worry about that every day. I don't have to track that every day. I don't have to worry about how far the fourth estate has fallen, right? I don't have to worry about what Carl Benjamin said today on Lotus Eaters. I don't have to, right? Because I can use other people to help me sense make that and just trust them. And sometimes they'll screw me for sure, but most of the time they won't, and I'd screw myself anyway. So it's like, oh, okay. Well, this is actually brings down your anxiety because you have to track, 9 things. You can track like 3, and then it's much just easier on you, right? And your life gets better and easier, and you start focusing locally. And then when things go right for you locally, whatever. I mean, the president's going to do what the president's going to do. So,
yeah, it's all kabuki theater in my mind. There's no way to peel back the onion to know who the actual guy is behind the wizard.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can't get honest, direct truth. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know they're trying to gain more power, and that's about the only thing I can guarantee that they're trying to do. But whether or not they're going to be successful.
What is this? Matt C. Mark, you've been missed. Where did I go? How did you miss me? I do freaking live streams once a week. Although next 2 weeks I won't be doing live streams. Not on Fridays anyway. I might squeeze one or two in here or there, but not on Fridays. Who's been what? You've been absent, Matt, not me. That's all I can think of.
So, what's your? Have you? One of the things I've been reading for a few years now. I'm curious your take on that based on your soothsayer video. And I don't know if you used an example because I haven't finished watching that video yet. What's your take on Scott Adams?
Scott's an interesting guy. I mean, I really liked his. I forget which book of his I read. It was one of the more recent ones. Really good.
Was it How to Lose and Still Win Bigly?
Yes, that's what it was. That's the one. Yeah, that was really good. I read that mostly when I was in Scotland, actually, oddly enough. Look, I mean, he's struggling with bad worldview. And he's super logical and rational, and he's very smart. And a lot of people have a hard time when their worldview is wrong and they have nothing else to fall back on, right? So what I'm pointing at here is if you don't have a large frame to hold you when you have to give up your worldview, you're kind of stuck. So you're probably going to double down or get angry when the world doesn't work out, or, it's probably just going to be really difficult for you. You kind of need not just a grand narrative, but, an eschatological level narrative to hold you so that you can break down your worldview. And, you know, like a lot of people are just stuck in this political frame. And it's like, what do you do when your party gets in political power and none of the things you think they were going to do happen? Literally none of them. Because that's happened. Like that happens over and over again. It's a perennial pattern. It never goes away. Like you break, like you just like you scream and you're like, no, it's gonna be, you know, the space aliens' fault or the lizard people or ancient aliens or it's really a secret cabal from the billionaires that are pulling the street, you know. And it's like, dude, you were just wrong. Like, relax, calm down, get a better worldview. And Scott Adams doesn't have a way to do that. So I feel bad for him because he's clearly stuck. And it's like, dude, this is easy to fix. Like, just fix it. And he can't. Is he leading people astray? I mean, yeah, insofar as he's holding on to this ridiculous worldview that doesn't work and using political framing. Like, political framing is garbage. It's the lowest resolution framing you can get. Right? And even Peterson's stuck in political framing. Well, you guys, like, you know better. Like, why are you doing this? Get out of that frame. It's a horrible way to try to understand the world. Nothing makes any sense in political framing.
So can you define what you mean by political framing?
Political framing is binary. And I have a video on binary frames. It's
okay.
Just the binaries are terrible. You get stuck in the binary, you're screwed. Because you only have two options. Everything has to fit in bucket A or bucket B.
Okay.
Right. And then your options are bucket A is defined by X, and everything that isn't defined by X is bucket B. But that's a lot of things. There's never an exact opposite to things. So what ends up happening is you can redefine, criteria A, right, all day long, but it's never going to work because all the other things that aren't that are a lot of other different things.
Okay.
And I've got to disagree with Matt. No, Matt, he was doing political framing a long time ago. Daily Wire is not political. If you can't see that, you're actually just missing a bunch of stuff. Ben Shapiro is not actually a political actor, which is, I know people think it's actually not, which is very funny. I keep telling lefties, like I said this to Van Clay when we had Kale and Sam on us. You guys are all lefties. If you actually read conservative news, that's right, folks. Conservatives mostly consume their news by reading. Yes, that's a fact. You can look it up. It's always been that way. If you actually read conservative news, you'd have a heart attack and die immediately. You just fall over, because that's what conservatism is. Way different from what you think it is. And that's the problem, is that like Ben Shapiro regularly, still, as far as I know, I don't watch him anymore, but I'm going to end up watching a bunch of them here next week for sure. Ben Shapiro regularly gets crap from the Orthodox Jewish community because they're like, if you are like you are on your podcast, on your news program, then you're not an Orthodox Jew. It's, whoa, no. This isn't me. This is me reporting on the news. These are not my views. I keep my personal views out of the news because I'm an Orthodox Jew. And it's like, yeah, you got no idea about conservatism unless you understand what Orthodox Jews are like. And I got a number of Orthodox Jew friends. Somehow I don't really understand it, but whatever. Jews love me. They love me. I don't know why. It's cool. I love them. They're all great. But it's weird because, like, he gets flack for it all the time because, yeah, you can't be that moderate middle of the road and be Orthodox. They're not moderate middle of the road guy at all. If you think when Shapiro's on there, he's being right wing, you're so far away from right wing, you wouldn't survive the encounter. It would kill you immediately. You'd be like, oh, and that would be the end of you. You'd be dead right away. Yeah, you're not even conceiving at that point. You're not even conceiving of what right wing is. Right wing is way worse in some sense than you think. You think it's like Tim Pool is right wing or whatever. It's like Tim Pool is left leaning moderate. Donald Trump, left leaning moderate. Donald Trump is literally Bill Clinton, except for China and trade. And he was always that way. You can see him on Oprah. I know Bill Clinton. I'm friends with Bill Clinton. I voted for Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's wrong on China and trade. Almost exactly what he says. Like almost exact. He's never changed his position ever. He's the most politically stable politician in the history of politicians, possibly in the history of all government. Like literally, you're not even getting how different this is from the world that's being portrayed.
Yeah,
That's the funny part. Like, no, the right never moved at all. They're conservatives. They don't move by definition.
yeah.
It's not
No,
left wing. No. See, Matt's stuck. DW is political, and it's not political. They're a neutral news organization. They're extraordinarily, ridiculously moderate. Like, that's the funny part. They're so moderate. It's insane how moderate they are. In fact, they're more moderate than Fox News was before Roger Ailes left, which is just amazing because Fox was left-leaning, because all TV news is left-leaning. Always was. It always leans left. Fox was this like left-leaning moderate outfit. And because, look, go read, what is it? American Standard? I forget. Like one of the old Buckley publications or something. Like you wouldn't believe what's it. You'd be like, what? You'd be like, this is unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable. But that's where conservatism is. They don't watch TV. They actually don't watch TV. Like this is why leftists don't understand it. They think everybody watches TV. No, conservatives read their news. They get it from newspapers and magazines, mostly periodicals, mostly quarterly. Like they don't even want daily news. They're not interested in weekly news. They're very much like Nassim Taleb, who says, yeah, we read the news quarterly. Yes, Nassim Taleb is correct. Pay attention to the news quarterly. That's it. And don't pay attention to anything within the last quarter, right? You read the quarterly news from 2 quarters ago, so you know what actually happened. I've been using that trick forever. Like I didn't even realize everybody didn't know that. I'm like, really? This is kind of obvious. And to be fair, like I used to watch CNN, Fox, and MSNBC all the time. And then I could watch one story on one of them and tell you what the other two were saying about it. It's very easy. It's just a simple skew calculation, right? But they're also all left-leaning. So Fox is, the most moderate. But like that doesn't resemble any of the material that you would read in a conservative periodical. It's just, there's no overlap at all. That's the funny part. There's just the way they talk about everything is totally foreign at that point. It's totally foreign to the moderate position. Moderates would not even recognize the language. They just use terminology completely differently because it's conservative. So they're using very solid, well-defined definitions for words that moderates and leftists just throw out and change the meanings of all over the place.
interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't know that. It's like a lot of people don't understand. I don't know if it's still true, but Massachusetts for decades and California for decades, it might not be true now, but it was true for decades, have more Republicans and more Republican voters. The reason why they're democratically controlled is gerrymandering. And that's why they kept electing Republican governors. Because if you do it by the popular vote by the state, they lean Republican. Right. But when you do it by the district, which is how they allocate the government, then they put all the Democrats, together, so they get to vote together, and all the Republicans are together, and so those states both end up Democrat controlled, even though they have a Republican majority. Like people don't know this stuff. It's like, no, the world is not the way you think it is, even a little bit. Things are way more complicated.
Yeah, no. California took it one step further and they created what's called the jungle primary. And so what that means is that only the top 2 primary candidates, regardless of party, gets to be on the ballot.
Oh, that's weirdly illegal. I love it.
Yeah. So because of that, for the last decade, so basically the last both for Senate, which is every 4 years, then of course the 4 years we've only had options in California to vote for 2 different Democrats for the Senate.
Wow.
You don't even get the option of voting for any other party.
So yeah, that's they just yeah, I see. They rigged it that way. That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
That's super clever.
Yeah.
I like it. Also fundamentally evil, but also clever. So like points for clever, all points taken away for evil. That's how I do it.
Yeah. So yeah, there's basically, I think the last time before that was put in place was when Schwarzenegger was governor, and from that point forward, there hasn't been any way to vote for a Republican at all.
Yeah, it's remarkable the rigging of the system, and nobody's paying any attention or really understanding the magnitude of the problem. And it's like, yeah, this is gonna come snapping back with death. That's how this is gonna end, guys. If you don't end it soon, it's gonna end with death. You got to get back on you got to get back on board. Yeah, it's fascinating too to watch some of the old like William Buckley on TV stuff back in the day when he was on like PBS and stuff. You can find that online. There were some clips, and this is like, what? And he was the leader of the conservative ideals back in the day, back in the 60s and 70s and such not. And if you haven't heard them talk, it's like, whoa.
What about it sticks out to you as being whoa? I'm curious. I mean, I've heard his name a lot. I've just never read his stuff.
Try the question again. I didn't quite follow it.
I'm curious, what is it that makes you say whoa about William Buckley's?
I see what you're saying.
Like,
well, it's just, again, it's his framing for things.
Okay.
And it's his, like conservatives will stand ground. Like they'll just say like, nah, nope, not moving, never. You know, they don't have any progressive disease. So they're not like change is good. They're like, no, we can change things, but first we've got to slow down and do a little research, right? It's a Chesterton's fence problem, right? They're like, no, we're not gonna change anything unless we really know what we're doing. We're just not. Like it's not even a consideration on the table. And if you bring it up, they shoot it down immediately, and they just do it. They just shoot it down. They don't go, well, you see, let me explain. They don't explain anything. They're like, no, we're not doing that. And then they move on from there, which, you know, for me, that's the right answer. Like stuff's been around for thousands of years. Just because you didn't read any history doesn't mean that you're right. It actually means that you're probably wrong.
I see. Okay.
Tim, are you going to Chino? I'm not going to Chino.
No, I'm not going to Chino.
I didn't think so, but I figured I'd ask since it came up. Yeah, I will not be attending Chino. I never had any plans to. I don't have a good feeling about Chino, but I hope it goes well. Also, I got a family obligation, so no, nothing overrides my cousins. Sorry, nothing. That doesn't happen. My cousins are actually all good. So yeah, especially the cousin I'm going to visit, because I stayed there for a couple of days and like I got nothing but treated like royalty. I was like, oh, this is great. I should stay with Tony more often. He's wonderful. Yeah, we went out to fancy restaurants and ate like complete pigs, and there were brownies. It was great.
Sounds like fun.
It was fun. My last trip was fun. Yeah, it was before that it was a little dicey, but yeah, my last trip was fun. I flew up. This time I got to drive, so I'll drive up. I'll drive up for a couple of days and drive back down, but I like the drive, so the drive is fun because I'll probably take I'll take the coastal route up, and I'll probably take the mountain route back, but maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. I might take the coastal route back down.
Where are you based out of again, Mark?
I'm in South Carolina.
Okay. Actually, I think that's where my brother wants to move when he gets out of the military.
Oh, really? Oh, cool. Yeah, I like it here. I like it a lot. I'm 2 hours from the mountains and 2 hours from the ocean, so it's not bad.
Yep. Yeah, his wife wants to get something with a little bit of land so she can have horses.
Oh my goodness, dude! Like land here is just like they practically hand it to you. It's ridiculous how cheap everything is. It's absolutely, as long as you don't want to live in Charleston or, you know, downtown. I'm not far from Columbia, but downtown Columbia is really expensive. relatively speaking, but even that is not that much money. You know, and a couple of other spots are expensive, but everything else is so insanely cheap. You know, I'm on 12 acres. I didn't spend $100,000 for 12 acres in a house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Down the street from me, they got, I think they're acre lots for 120,000 new builds, 2-car garage. 125 in that range.
Yeah.
2 miles from my house. I'm 20 miles out of Columbia.
That's a nice deal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Matt, I don't have a good feeling about Chino. Chino just seems like chaos to me. And not already on the coast. No, you don't want to be on the coast here because they have alligators. That's one reason. The other reason is the coast floods a lot because we have the lowlands and the midlands. I'm in the midlands. And we've got the uplands. I'm in the midlands. I want to be in the midlands. It's a lot cooler and a lot nicer where I am. And it's not mountains because I don't actually want the mountains. So I love the mountains. They're gorgeous, but I don't want to live in the mountains. Yeah, the coast down here is brutal. Like the whole reason why Camden exists is because people were getting out of Charleston during the summer. And Camden's no picnic either, although Camden is way better than Columbia. Columbia gets really hot. Oh, I see. See, the true Telos comes out here with Matt. Yeah, but you're in Gamecock country. See, it was all a ploy. You know, oh no, you're going to be up in the mountains. You can't be in Gamecock country. Oh, Clemson's up in the mountains, man. Yeah, that's a nasty. I don't even understand those things, right? Because everything in Boston, where I'm from, is it's the national teams. We don't fight over the college teams. Nobody even knows who they are. You know, like we fight over the national teams because we always had good national teams, at least in one or two sports at once. So yeah, I'm not used to this whole like college team rivalry thing. Is just like complete anathema to me. I'm like, what? What do you mean?
See, I grew up in Southern California, so it was always UCLA versus USC.
Matt, then come clean. Which fan are you? If you're not a Clemson guy and you hate USC, what the hell? Or do you just hate all the South Carolina teams? Or is there another team I don't know anything about? Because the Clemson versus USC is like huge here. Like people,
okay.
they don't get in fist fights, but my goodness, is that the most? Yes, I'm very low resolution.
I'll have to ask my best friend John because he's a huge SC fan.
Yeah.
And ask him about Clemson and see what he has to say.
No, they go nuts. It's really funny. I mean, it's all good-hearted and stuff, but it's really, really funny to watch. Yeah, there was a company I was working for a while, unfortunately, but they had these 3 conference rooms, and one of them was Clemson colors and mascot. The other one was USC colors and mascot. I was like, okay. Yeah, it was
wow.
Yeah. People just go nuts with that. I'm like, what is wrong with you people? Why are you doing this? It's crazy.
You know what? I grew up with you in Southern California, and I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. No, I don't really understand the sports religions. And I'm not a super big sports guy anyway. Like, not that I don't like sport. I love to go to a good ball game, but we saw when I was up in New England last time, we actually caught the opening day for the Manchester Monarchs. So that was fun.
Is that a basketball team?
AAA baseball.
AAA baseball. Okay.
I think it's AAA. I forget now. Yeah, we just happened to catch opening day, my uncle and I, because he's a big baseball fan. So that was fun. Yeah, I'd love a good Red Sox game, you know, whatever. And I've been to the Fireflies down here. That's cool. We got a brand new stadium. It's very nice.
Nice.
But I'm not like, I don't follow that stuff. I don't go, oh, let's see where we're at in the stats. I don't do that.
I hear you. Yeah. I couldn't even tell you. Other than the teams that I knew just from growing up, because everybody's obsessed with where I grew up. I had, the Dodgers and the Angels, but I couldn't tell you where they're at or what they're doing.
Look at this. Matt, see, listen, there's a reason the Midlands and mountain regions of SC are obsessed with sports ball. They have no beaches. Dude, I'm telling you, I've been in Charleston in the middle of the summer. It is not pleasant, okay? You can talk about the beaches all day long. I've been on the beaches up in the Outer Banks and stuff, and it's still not pleasant. Like it's good. It's way better than inland sometimes, and sometimes it's not at all. Like sometimes it's like, oh, please take me inland, sir, please, because the dry heat's much better in some cases. So it's not that straightforward, Matt. Don't be giving me that. Like I said, Camden, South Carolina only exists because it's too hot in the summer in Charleston. That's where the money all went. Beautiful. If you've never been to Camden, South Carolina, it's absolutely gorgeous. Horses everywhere. They got all kinds of things up there. Gorgeous. Bunch of Revolutionary War history I knew nothing about. So happy. Come down south, I learned all these things about the Revolutionary War. I'm like, those bastards in New England lied to me, those sons of bitches. Ha! Now I have more data.
I give you a little bit more data. My great-great-grandfather on my mother's side is next door neighbors with Thomas Jefferson, who was an inventor and actually created a safer gunpowder, which is part of the reason why we won the Revolutionary War, because our guns discharged less than the Red Army.
Yeah, we had a lot of good firearms technology, right?
Yep.
We had the Browning rifles and stuff, and a whole bunch of stuff that helped. But the thing that people don't know is that although all the battles in the South were smaller, the Southerners won almost all their battles, where it's the other way around. All the battles in the North were more people, but they lost almost all their battles in the Revolutionary War. It's very funny. And actually, it was the South coming on board because the Brits took it for granted that wasn't going to happen. But it was the South coming on board as a result of, I can't remember the name of the general because it's too late at night. Tarleton, that's his name. Tarleton put some local in charge and said, yeah, do whatever you need to do. And he just started burning farms. And they're like, wait, what? Screw the British. And then they just started to attack and harass. And the movie The Patriot is actually, they're rolling up characters. They're rolling up multiple characters into one character, but it's actually fairly accurate from what I can tell. If you start digging into the real historical sources on Southern Revolutionary War information, which is very hard to find, you kind of realize, oh, no, this is pretty accurate, actually, not in spirit, not exact facts, but the patterns are actually correct. And because they were all like, no, we'd never fight against the British. Are you kidding? We're Brits. We're not doing it. And then it was just this one boneheaded move by one arrogant piece of garbage, and him putting the wrong people in charge, and boom, he created a war that didn't need to exist. And had the South not gone to war, we definitely would have lost. There's no question about it. So yeah. And at the same time, there were 2 battles of Camden, and they couldn't get Camden back. Part of that was bad luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of little historical, and of course, they're big on Civil War down here, which I think is the worst war ever to even think about. But yeah, it's so
well, you want to talk about a major change in our country? That's basically what killed our Constitution.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that's what killed it. I think FDR killed it, but the real
FDR,
sort of problem.
Let me put it this way: FDR wouldn't be able to do what he did if it wasn't for the Civil War.
No, I think he would have, and he would have done it anyway. I mean, you can argue either way on that. But the problem with the Civil War is everybody misunderstands what happened, and everybody was on the wrong side of every issue somehow. And it's mind blowing to me how you rule 4 states' rights in the way that they did in the Supreme Court. Like that's just like, what? Wait, what? That's backwards. It's actually Dred Scott's backwards. And it's Massachusetts that started the war, basically. It's Massachusetts' fault. which I find amusing.
Yeah, that's the thing is that's what I mean by the FDR wouldn't be able to do what he did because of the fact they basically annulled states' rights.
Yeah, in a weird way, they took out states' rights using legal corruption, roughly speaking, right? Because they were afraid of the repercussions.
Right.
And I like the book American Nations by Colin Woodard. He basically casts the whole thing as a battle over future slavery, not current slavery. And it's like, oh, and it totally, I mean, I think he's right. It sounds right to me. And it's not the only one that talks about this, but
Right.
I think he makes the best case for it, actually.
So what's his argument about future slavery versus currently? I mean, it was more
None of no other state was going to be allowed into the Union if they allowed slavery. That was already a done deal. But what that meant was that the political power of slaveholding states was going to go down, and they knew eventually that meant slavery would be abolished. And so they forced the issue sooner rather than later because they had the power. They're like, well, we have this many votes today, and we're going to have fewer in the future. So if we don't fight now, we're in trouble.
Right. Okay.
And that was a time of expansion, right? They were like, oh, there's all this land back here and we can fill it up with people. So we're going to bring more states online. And that's why you get, I think is it Kansas that was split? There were two states. We had a lot of brother on brother fighting in particular because of the split.
It even happened in states that were marked as being southern states. There were parts of the states that didn't even want to go. So, for example, on my dad's side of the family, they were in Campbell County, Tennessee, which is eastern Tennessee. They didn't want to go with the South. They wanted to go with the North.
Right.
So when the North came in, they treated them as though they were the South. And so they hated both sides by the end of the war.
Right. Well, but that Woodard explains all this because he redraws the geographical map to the immigration pattern.
Okay.
And then he shows all the immigration patterns. You're like, oh, right, because really, like Appalachia should be its own, like the country of Jefferson or the state of Jefferson should exist like that because they're all the same, right? But they span all these states, right? Because Appalachia is, northeastern Georgia, right? Northwestern South Carolina, southeastern Tennessee, right? It's Virginia, it's West Virginia, it's North Carolina, right? It's Kentucky. Like there's all these things wrapped up, but all those people are the same. They're all in the mountains because they're rebels. They're all Scots-Irish. They're all pretty much the same. They all have the same political ideas, right? But they're strewn across all these states. And then you look at something like Tidewater, which is the mid-Atlantic states, versus and it's like halfway down Maryland and halfway down North Carolina, right? They're very different from the Deep South, but they're closer to each other than they are to the Yankees because everybody hates the Yankees. Yeah, fair enough. I was in Yankee. I'm not a Yankee. I'm French Canadian, so we don't play that game. But like, fair enough that the Puritans are bad. But that's the thing. Like, who allied with whom is, so the funny thing about Appalachia, according to Woodard, is Appalachia is against every single war until it's declared, and then they're all in. This is weird. They're just like, nope, no wars. And when we declare war, they're like, all right, let's do this. It's like, wait a minute, what happened? There's nothing in between for them. It's really, really funny. It's really, because they're all, not all of them, but like they're all Scots-Irish that were screwed over by the British military. So they hate government. They're all rebels. I want to call them the Rebel Mountains. I think we should just rename Appalachia the Rebel Mountains, give them their own state so they can vote correctly. Everything will be better.
Interesting. Okay.
Matt, the Puritans were always bad. Everybody in New England knows the Puritans are bad. It's just that they think their Puritanism is good and the other Puritans are bad. That's all it is. I'm serious. That's all it ever was. And everybody hates the Catholics. Fair enough. But I'm French Canadian, so my whole family is Catholic, and the other side's Irish. That's no better. They're all Catholics too. So they were the last two holdout countries for Catholicism. And the French Canadians were, of course, like the last. All right. It was only recently that collapsed. Joe talks about that. I'd love to get a deep dive on that. The Puritans were always bad. So the amazing thing about American Nations by Colin Woodard, the thing that I learned that really pulled it all together, because the North-South divide doesn't make any sense at all. The North-South divide is simply this. It's the difference between public Protestantism in the North and private Protestantism in the South. And that difference, roughly speaking, is public Protestants believe that if there are no liquor stores, people won't get drunk, and therefore that will bring about the shining city on the hill. Private Protestants don't believe in the shining city on the hill, and they don't believe that you should be interfering with the lives of other people. And if somebody's a drunk, that's between them and God. That's literally the difference. And once you understand that, all the North-South stuff makes total sense. Like abolition, prohibition, it's all like, oh, right? Because then when you start looking where those movements come from, the meddlesome Quakers, oh, they're the worst. They're the ones that rabble-rouse all this garbage. Okay, fine. They do seem to think they're fixing things with Puritan 2.0. Yeah, well, they do. The North-South divide is keeping folks away from our gloriously humid beaches. No, that's not what it's for. That's not what it's for. Well, also, I found out why that book is great. Colin Woodard is awesome. American Nations is an awesome book. Learned so much from it. I thought there was no more history for me to learn in the U.S. And man, that book just broke that open. He points out the reason why the Southern schools are terrible is because the Northerners, the Puritans, came down to educate all the children after the war. And the Southerners were like, no. It's not just the Southerners. Like, nobody who emigrated to the United States wanted the Puritans teaching their children. Nobody, ever. The Germans kept moving west. The Swedish came in. Nobody wanted the Puritans. So, because they didn't want them educating their children. So the Southerners were like, I know what we'll do. We'll just remove all the funding from the school system, and the Northerner carpetbaggers will go home. That's literally what happened. And they never refunded the school systems. They never put money back into the school systems. So they have terrible schools down here. It's literally that simple. It's a legacy from that whole time period. It's so bizarre. And like once you see it, you're like, wow. And you can't unsee it. It's like, oh, all these patterns make sense now. They're shocking.
I guess that would part of another reason why they wouldn't like the North, and if the North was the public Puritans. The Eastern, my dad's side of the family were German brethren.
Oh yeah, no. Well, so another thing that Woodard points out, and I've read this elsewhere, but like he does a much better expose than the one I had originally read. So they go into Philadelphia to like form this new thing, right? That eventually becomes the United States. And the first thing they do is they take William Penn's folks, the Friends, and they make sure they have no voting power whatsoever. That's the first thing they do, because all the sides are like, these Friends, man, they're creepy. Let's make sure they can't vote. They invade their city, their actual city, and they prevent them from voting about any of the country. Automatic. It's the first thing they do. It's like, what?
What?
Completely
How did I miss that in my history class?
They don't talk. That's the thing. Like Woodard's really good about that. Like I understood when I came down here and realized there's all this Revolutionary War history I'd never heard of. I was like, wow, I understand that because I grew up in Boston. Like I grew up in Boston, right? I'm in Lowell, which is probably the most historical city in the history of the universe, right? I'm going to Boston field trips. We got all those museums, we got history museums, all kinds of stuff all over the place, right? Just great learning about the Revolutionary War, except nothing about the South. Almost nothing, ever. And of course, nobody wants to talk about the Civil War except the Southerners, which is fine. No problem with that. I don't want to hear about it though. So you end up with this view of the victorious North, and it's like, well, and you look at it, you're like, I don't know, they weren't very victorious. And then you find out the Southerners like kicked ass. They just were kicking tail and taking names left, right, and center. But they're all small battles, right? They're very small battles.
Who is the author that you recommend for history?
Colin Woodard.
Colin Order? How do you spell that?
Woodard.
Woodard? Okay.
Yeah. American Nations. The 11 Nations of North America or something is the subtitle. It's quite a good book. I was blown away. Now, the very ending of the book, right after he talks about public and private Protestantism, oddly enough, he goes completely off the rails and starts doing future prediction, and like Greenland is the utopia. And I'm like, he must have been dropping acid, or I don't even know how you get there. I have no idea how you get there. It was crazy talk. It was literal crazy. It was literally like, dude, either you're on some medication you shouldn't be on, or you're off some medication you should be on, but this is just weird.
So I have a book recommendation for you, since you got some of that. He might mention it in his book. It'd be interesting if he does, but there's a book you may want to read, especially if you've already read the Federalist Papers. There was a book written in 1825. Yeah, it was 1825. It was written by this guy named John Taylor, who was good friends with Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
And Thomas Jefferson's actually quoted, I don't know if they created the quote just for the book or if he actually did say this, but basically said the reason why he never wrote about what he meant when he wrote the Constitution is because his friend John did it with some minor quibbles. And what the book does is basically, the reason why it's important is it came out 2 years after they declassified all the personal journals of everyone that was at the Federal Convention of 1773. And so because of that, he's actually showing, by pointing to the journals, where the Federalist Papers lied what was agreed upon when they signed the Constitution.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the name of this book?
New Views of the Constitution by John Taylor.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. Thanks. I might check that out. Matt thinks I am probably the only person awake in Camden. I'm not in Camden. I'm close, though. I love Camden. Camden's gorgeous. It's a beautiful little place to visit. They get a nice little bookstore downtown. Oh, they get some cool books there. Reminds me of Harvard Square back in the day. Harvard Square is now a scum pit, but back in the day it wasn't.
All right. I think I'm going to sign off.
All righty, sir. Well, it was great to meet you, and
Nice to meet
come
you, Mark.
back again soon.
Yep. As long as the stars align, I'll be here.
All righty, sir. Have a
All
lovely night. Sleep well.
Take care.
And on that note, I think I'm going to go to bed because it is way past my bedtime. I stayed up too late as usual, but that's what we do on Fridays to make sure all the Buccaneers are taken care of. So thank you everybody for watching. Watch my other live streams; they're all awesome. Watch my other videos on navigating patterns because they're awesome. And I hope this Telos talk was helpful. And it's going to be a couple weeks. But we'll get back into the Friday thing and get Jesse on there. You're welcome, Matt. You can troll me anytime. It's perfectly fine. I love a good troll. Very fun. Yeah, I hope everybody got something out of this. And I hope to see everybody in a couple 3 weeks when I do it all again. And I'll try to do live streams in the meantime if I can. Have a good night. Sleep well. Behave.